Kadaba, Pakistan, morning of day 15. What a terrible goddamn night I had. It took the rats 3 hours to finally eat enough of the little boy to kill him. His cries for help are imprinted on my mind, and when it became light enough for me to see this morning, it was even worse. The rats were still there eating him. I puked my guts out and turned my head away. As bad as last night was, today is even worse. After the guards tie me to the chair, Mustafa comes in. Good morning, Sergeant Major Benny Blaine. I trust our little entertainment yesterday and last night was enjoyable for you. He sneered at me. I wonder how in the hell he got my real name until he throws a copy of the New York frickin' Crimes newspaper on the desk in front of me. It's from 5 days after my capture. The headlines read, American hero MIA and presumed dead. Mustafa starts beating me across the face. He's really pissed. So you thought it was funny to tell us you were Alfred E. Newman? You American pig. You embarrassed me. I should just beat you until you can't move. Let the men assault the shit out of you, and then let the rats eat you. He keeps beating me until he's breathing hard and doesn't have the strength to continue. So you're a Marine American hero. Let me tell you how your America is treating you now. Mustafa continues reading from the paper. After helping 5 wounded Marines into a rescue helicopter, Sergeant Major Benny Blaine jumped into a different helicopter. His helicopter was shot down and burst into flames minutes after crashing with no survivors. There are no plans for a rescue attempt because the presence of religious militants is too strong in the area of the crash. So, you pig, I guess your butt is mine until I grow tired of you and let the men have their way with you, Mustafa says. Then your butt will be theirs. He laughs at his evil humor. He injects me with the narcotics they've been using on me and leaves for a couple hours, leaving the paper in front of me. From time to time, he comes back to give me another injection. When the swelling in my face subsides, I read some more of the article. It mentions Yince is sure I am still alive, and she won't rest until I am found. At least she is doing better than when I left on this screwed-up mission. Even though she's the most incredible woman in the world, I don't hold much help of her saving me. That's something the general would never allow. I am shocked when Zarika comes late in the day and cleans me up, taking care of the new cuts and bruises on my face. Then she redresses my feet, shaking her head and telling me in Russian my feet don't look good. Finally, she feeds me some more stew and gives me a bunch of water. I manage to string together enough Russian to ask her why Mustafa still lets her take care of me. She replies that he doesn't know about it and that she bribes the guards to let her help me. When I ask what she bribes the guards with, she just looks uncomfortable and drops her gaze to the floor. I realize with a sickened feeling that she's letting the guards screw her so she can take care of me. She tells me she heard Mustafa and the leader talking. They want information out of me about where the Americans hold prisoners because that's where the leader's brother is being held. And the leader told Mustafa I had better not die because he was planning on trading me for his brother. She asks me about my American girlfriend and if she is pretty and what life is like in America. I try to tell her the best I can. When she hears the guards coming, she smiles at me, gives me a kiss on the cheek, tells me not to lose hope, warns me not to anger Mustafa, and promises she will try to sneak in to see me tomorrow. The guards tie me to the ceiling and surprise me by leaving the lights on again. I am sure it must be because of Zarika. I probably owe her my life. At least my Yince as well. I have been really worried about my love. I hope I will have dreams about her tonight. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Thursday, day 12. It was a good thing I'd put on my bionic ears, because no sooner did we leave the hiding place than I heard a patrol. They were close and moving away from us. I keyed my mic. Looks like we have a patrol just ahead on the trail at about 400 meters moving away from us. Let's sneak up on them and take them out. Wow, I can't hear them at all, but my ears are still ringing from the last skirmish. What did you hear? Someone isn't using a camelback. They're using either a water bottle or a canteen, and I can hear the water sloshing in it, I replied, and continued. Someone else has a nervous habit of tapping on his weapon. One person has a stuffy nose. Another person just slapped at a bug. Should I keep going? Damn, I have got to get a pair of those, she said. Ouch. Make sure you whisper, I said. Sorry, my love, Yince whispered. We slowly worked our way up to the patrol until we could see them in our night vision gear. I said, looks like a small patrol. I count 8. Yince replied, the trail curves ahead. If we wait, I think we can get a shot on all of them. Yince was right as usual and whispered, I'll take the back 4, you take the front 4. On 3. 1, 2, 3. We opened fire with our suppressed M4S, and by the time the patrol figured out what was going on, they were all dead. I grabbed Yince and threw her to the ground, just in time, and shushed her. There's a sniper on the ridge to our left, I think about 500 meters. I know who it is because he always clears his throat right before he shoots. He didn't see us in our ghillie suits until we fired. Then he saw our muzzle blast. We will need to be careful whenever we fire. Thanks, my love. I owe you one, she whispered. So, why doesn't everyone use bionic ears? Let's start working our way towards the right side of the ridge. I'll tell you as we move, I answered, and we started crawling up the hill. You're the only person that knows about this other than Jack. When I said they're a secret, that's what I meant. You see, sometimes my luck had some help. You know, now some things make sense, Jens replied as we kept creeping towards the ridge. There were times my simulations of you didn't make sense, and I wondered if you had ESP. Now I know about the ears. Those times make sense. Well, some of those times might have been me trusting my feelings. So maybe they were ESP. We need to be very quiet now so I can listen, I said, and Jens fell silent, even measuring her breathing. I listened. Yeah, this is George. I can tell by the sounds he makes. He's good, but we can take him, especially since he can't see us with these IR suits. He's right at the point of the hill, about 300 meters away. I think if we continue to the right, we can find a position to take him out. He always shoots an M40 in .300 Winchester Magnum. I want his rifle for our use. Besides, it will really piss him off when we take his it. No noise from now on. Jens more than complied. She had really listened to me, and I could hardly hear her. We got to the top of the ridge on the right, and I broke the silence. Shit, we can't get a shot from here. Jens, I'm proud of how quiet you are. Because of that, I think we can sneak up and take them both out with our knives. My love, she answered. Did you forget about our suppressed Ruger MKIs? Once we get within 25 feet, they'll be the perfect. Damn, I forgot all about them. You're totally right. This will be much better than trying to sneak close enough for knives. Thanks for reminding me, my beautiful and deadly witch, I said. Jens squeezed my leg, letting me know she liked the compliment. We took our time and found a clearing at 25 feet, but we still had a problem. We couldn't see them with our NV gear because they had on the same IR suits as we had. Using my bionic ears, I had a good idea where both of them were, but I wasn't 100% sure. Finally, Jens started making a mewing sound like a kitten. Both George and his spotter turned, and the movement told us where they were. For shots from the Rugers, and they were dead. I half whispered, "You can leave all your gear, George. We're going to be using it." George swore. Son of a bitch. I knew we were in trouble when the BG sent us in after you. Bonsai. I tried to tell him you would end up killing us and using our weapons. You know you really ripped them up when they attacked the hill. That was one of the best tactical plans I have ever seen. I guess you have been studying. George, I'm not smart enough to come up with this plan. My new spotter and fiancée came up with it. She is the beauty and the brains of this unit. George and Frank, meet Jumpin' Jens, I replied. Jens shook their hands. Pleased to meet both of you. I've studied you. You're very good. George looked at me. I'd heard you were pissed about having a woman as your new spotter. Then I heard you two were engaged, and I figured she must be really good for you to change your mind. I was right. He turned to Jens. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, the future Mrs. Blaine. So, if you're the beauty and the brains of the unit, what does that make Bonsai? Jens replied, thanks, George. Bonsai is the boss and the brawn of the unit. Jens started to explain it to them, but I interrupted. Hey, I hate to do this, but we have to get moving. We'll take care of your weapons like they are our own, and we'll let you know where we leave them after we run out of ammo. George answered, I'm not upset. I knew you would do this. When I missed the shot on one of you, I told Frank you would be coming for us. We thought about leaving, but figured we would die either way. This is a good rifle. It's sighted in at 500 meters, and I have 100 rounds of ammo with it. To be truthful, we are just happy to be able to leave and get some sleep. Give them hell, Bonsai and Jens. Ora, we both said, and watched George and Frank take off. I asked Jens, well, we have a new sniper rifle. Why don't you bring out Lassie and figure out which location would be the best? Jens set up the computer and satellite dish and booted Lassie. Wow, she remarked. I can't believe how many ghosts are on the screen. We're lucky we're here. This one area is relatively empty. Damn, there are 4 other groups of snipers, and they're all hunkered down just waiting for us. At least we know where they are now, and can either go after them or avoid them. Since this area is sort of clear, please give me a few minutes, my love, to analyze all this data and come up with a plan. When Jens gets into her analysis mode, she totally concentrates on her duty. I went over and introduced myself to the weapon. It was a pretty nice rifle. I think I hear something, I said. Jens was still busy, so I started looking around. I took a look through the scope and said, my love, do you see any ghosts about 1,400 meters away from us? That broke her out of her trance. What? What are you talking about? I don't see anything. Well, I can see 3 ghosts wandering around and I need ranged, I answered. Shit, she answered. I'll be right there. And he slid down to the spotting scope. Son of a bitch. I want them dead, and then I want to go see what they're wearing. Range on left ghost, 1424 meters. Elevation, -10. Wind, 4 at 354. Wait. Hold your fire. They're civilians. Shit. What are civilians doing in the training area? That explains why they're so noisy and they look like they're lost. I sighed. I guess I have to make the call. I keyed my mic on the emergency call all frequency. Unit Bravo Juliet calling the RSO. We have identified 3 suspected civilians in the training area. Please advise. The radio crackled. This is RSO Colonel Sanderson to all troops in the training area. The exercise is immediately on hold. Cease all training activity and movement until Unit Bravo Juliet verifies the presence of civilians in the training area. Unit Bravo Juliet, you are ordered to contact the suspected civilians and verify their identity. If they are civilians, detain them and radio your location. We'll send the MPs to pick them up. Also, if they're civilians, treat them with the utmost respect and courtesy. While I was on the radio, Yinz was digging in her pack. She pulled out 2 Kimber and handed one to me along with 2 mags. Put this on, and be careful. This is a real Kimber with real ammo. I don't think so because they're so inept, but these civvies could be assassins. Yin's phone started vibrating. 1 minute, my love. She answered the phone. It was the general on the line. She hung up the phone and continued, that was Daddy, and he told me they are probably a news crew but to be very careful. He also authorized me to carry the Kimbers we have, and if necessary to fire live ammo in the training area. He told me to be very careful with them, and to not say anything in front of them. When we go down there, you'll stay concealed and cover my back. If they are terrors looking for you, they probably won't shoot me. I shook my head. Bullshit on that last part. That's not what the general said. You're forgetting I have on my bionic ears. I heard both sides of the conversation. Here's how we will handle this. It's evident they don't have NV gear. Shit, I even saw them turn on a flashlight. We'll sneak in front of them and contact them. These are my orders. I don't agree with you on this, but I live and love to serve you, Yinz replied. The adrenaline was flowing when we slipped down the hill. As we got closer to them, I started laughing and keyed my private frequency to Yinz. Yeah, this is a news crew, all right, I chuckled. There's even a woman in it, and she's swearing at the 2 guys for getting them lost. Yinz answered back. We still need to be careful. She was right as always, so we were not just careful. We were very careful. When we were about 50 meters from them, Yinz could even hear the woman, and whispered to me, You were right, my love, this is funny. Damn, she can really bitch. It's a shame we have to capture them. It'd be much more fun to let them wander around until daylight. I keyed the emergency frequency. This is Unit Bravo Juliet, giving a status report. We are within 50 meters of the suspected civilians and are about to make contact. Roger. Unit Bravo Juliet. Please lock down your transmit button so we can record your contact with the suspected civilians. We will contact Juliet on an alternate frequency if we have instructions for you, Colonel Sanderson answered. We were in position with Yinz on one side of the trail and me on the other side. I locked the transmit button down and said in my loudest Marine voice, Halt where you are. Put your hands in the air and do not move. The woman screamed and fell to the ground. The other 2 slowly put their hands in the air. I continued, What happened to the woman? One of the voices replied, You scared the piss out of her and she fainted. Please don't shoot us, we're lost. I answered, You just lied to me. You're not lost. Don't lie to me again. You're trespassing on USMC property and are currently surrounded. Do not make any sudden moves or we'll be forced to fire. Do you understand my orders? Both the men said, Yes. Tell me who you are, I commanded. One of them said, We are a news crew from CCCN. I'm John, the audio engineer. This is Bernie, the cameraman, and the woman on the ground who pissed herself and passed out is Elizabeth Morgan. We're here to try to film this exercise. We weren't lost when we came in here, but got lost later. Yinz said to me, Bravo. The RSO wants them searched and any cameras and recording gear confiscated. I radioed our location and the RSO is sending in a chopper and a detail of MPs to escort them out of the training area. I had heard of the news reporter. She was a real bitch who liked to broadcast sensational stories about the military, most of them bad. It was a common joke that we called the news network CCCP1 instead of CCCN because of their slanted stories. I was wondering what the hell they were doing there. I told John and Bernie, I'll be coming in to search both of you. This will require that I touch both of you. After I'm done, Juliet will come in and search Ms. Morgan. Please don't make any sudden moves. I slowly walked up to John and searched him. He did have news credentials on him. I did the same for Bernie, who had the same credentials. I found the flashlight and alerted Yinz so she could turn off her NV gear. Juliet, I have their flashlight and I'm turning it on. Roger, she replied, and I turned on the flashlight. Yinz moved up just as Ms. Morgan came to. She said, Ms. Morgan, do not move. You're being detained for trespassing on USMC property. I'm going to search you to make sure you're who you say you are, and to make sure you're not carrying any weapons. I shined the flashlight in Ms. Morgan's eyes and Yinz started searching her. You, Yinz said. She did piss herself. John and Bernie started snickering. Ms. Morgan snarled, you two cut that out. One word of this to anyone, and you will lose your jobs. She's clean, Jen said. Please stand up and move over with the other two. She did, but was still pretty wobbly. She blinked her eyes a couple of times and said, it's you two, the ones we've been looking for. Sergeant Major Benny Blaine and Sergeant Jennifer Donaldson. We've been trying to find both of you. I was wondering if we could interview you. Bernie, why aren't you taping this? Bernie replied, they confiscated all of our gear. Ms. Morgan launched into a tirade about how they were American citizens, and this was American property, and how we didn't have the right to do this. She then said, screw this shit. I know those aren't real guns. You can't have real guns in a training area, and move towards the camera 20 feet away. Ma'am, if you take one more step towards the camera, we'll be forced to physically detain you. I said, go screw yourself, Ms. Morgan said, and kept moving towards it. I nodded at Yinz. She stepped in front of Ms. Morgan, and Ms. Morgan said, who do you think you are? Move the hell out of my way, bitch, and want to push Yinz. Yinz grabbed one of her arms and twisted it around behind her back and escorted her back beside the other two. All of you sit down, put your hands on your heads and don't move, I commanded. Yinz forced the reporter to the ground, leaned over and whispered something in her ear, and got back up smiling. Ms. Morgan looked shaken by what Yinz had told her, and this time obeyed us. Finally, the chopper arrived. There wasn't any place to land, so the MPs had to rappel down to the ground. Yinz told me the RSO wanted me to release the mic, so I did. The MPs put the intruders in handcuffs and started marching them out of the training area. Bernie said, hey, what about our gear? The MPs said, what gear? We don't see any gear. Finally, they were out of our hair, and the RSO called over the emergency channel. Unit Bravo Juliet, good job. You both handled that situation very well. Because the position of Unit Bravo Juliet has been compromised, this training exercise is on hold for 2 hours to allow for relocation. You'll be notified when this exercise resumes. I asked Yinz, so what did you say to the bitch? She looked really scared. Jen laughed and answered, I told her if she called me a bitch again, I would have a training accident with my K-bar and her confidence. And if she didn't behave herself, she might find herself left behind the next time she was out with the Marines in Iraq. I just laughed. Damn, you're dangerous. I gave her a big hug and kiss. Thanks for following my orders. You did really well. Like I told you, my love, you're the boss. I didn't like that you were the one to make first contact, but when you order me to do something, I will obey. I live and love to serve you, Yinz answered, and gave me another hug and kiss. Yinz's phone buzzed again, and she answered it. When she was done, she said, Daddy wants us to secure the camera gear and wrap it up in some tarps so it's waterproof. They'll pick it up after the exercise. Wait, why did I tell you? You could hear it with those bionic ears. That's right. Hey, we better get moving. We only have about 2 hours to relocate. Jen said, I've been thinking, almost everyone will assume we're going to relocate as far away from here as we can. So that's what we're not going to do. Instead, we'll move everything to the hill across the trail from this one. It's a better place for us to be anyway, because our backs will be protected by the edge of the training area. We just have to make sure we don't get trapped at the top of this hill because there isn't an escape route. Again, her thinking was flawless and would probably save our lives. I started humping the gear to the other hill while Yinz set up the location. She figured out some traps. Nothing as elaborate as Location Charlie, but this would help when we needed to bug out. The biggest problem I could see was that we were limited to about 1,000 meters in range. If we ran into a sniper with AM-107, or even AM-40 in .338 Lapua, or another mortar team, we were screwed. I finished hauling the last of the gear up and sat down by Yinz, who was busy on the computer. I've been replaying the last few days at high speed, and I might have found a major weakness in the troop plans. Yinz said to me, come and look at this. I started watching the computer screen, and she continued. Notice the edges of the training area. I watched as she ran the playback and said, damn, no one patrols the edges of the training area. They concentrate on the inside. That's right, my brilliant fiancé, Yinz said. Groups occasionally reach the edge, but only when they're doing a grid search. This means if we stick to the edge of the training area, we'll be able to travel wherever we want. So I humped all this gear over here for no good reason? I groaned. No. Is this a good enough reason? Jens said, and gave me a smoking hot kiss. Maybe if I was to get several more it might be worth it, I answered. Jens happily complied. It was starting to get light, and we heard the RSO. The 2-hour window is now over. The exercise will now resume. Jens continued, this is a pretty good location if we have to fall back and make a last stand. So let's leave the heavy stuff here. How about some breakfast, and then we take off down the edge of the training area? Oh yeah, just the thoughts of your MREs makes me hungry, I answered. Jens made the MREs while I watched the computer screen. She brought mine over and I said, you know, it almost looks like they're running patrols on a set schedule. What do you think? Jens sat down and prayed, and I sort of played along. Then she looked at the computer playing back the last few days and said, I think you're right. She reached over and entered some more commands, then ran the playback again. No, now I'm sure you're right. There was so much data I missed it. Let's see something. She worked on the computer some more. The screen filled with number dots overlaid on the map. These are the times the patrols intersect with the edge of the training area. It's accurate within 30 minutes. We can either use this data to stay away from the patrols or to attack them. Which do you prefer, my love? Well, morning is coming soon, and I could use a couple hours of sleep. Otherwise, I would need to take a white too. Which place would be the best for us to sack out? I asked. Jens pointed to the map. This is the least patrolled area, and while we head to it, we'll be able to pick off this patrol. She pointed to one of the numbered dots. Then she switched back to the real-time display. It looks like we have a couple of patrols headed this way. Let's move before they get here. We headed along the edge of the training area and got to the interception point about 45 minutes before the patrol's arrival time. We each found a good place to hide and then just waited. 50 minutes later, the platoon showed up. They had been doing this route for several days and were tired and bored. I called Jens on the radio. You know, if we kill them here, they'll know we are at the edge. They're really bored and tired. So I say we follow them away from the edge by about 1 click and then take them. Jens answered, wow, I must be tired. I didn't even think of that. It's a great idea. The patrol turned. We slipped out of hiding and followed them unnoticed. We actually followed them about 2 clicks. Then we flanked them and started firing with our suppressed M4S. It was so funny to watch, because they weren't ready for us at all, and it scared the crap out of them. Before long, we had another 15 kills. I called Jens on the radio. I've just had a great idea. Watch and listen. I stood up and yelled at the platoon, you're all dead, and by the rules of engagement, we claim all your gear. Drop your weapons and your packs where you are and leave for the entrance. They grumbled about it, but left everything. Jens ran up, and we started looking through all the gear and took some of the best for us. The rest, we put in one big pile and marked it on the map for later retrieval. Jens said, that was brilliant. I wish we would have been doing this all along. It's going to slow them up if they have to resupply every time we send them back to the entrance. It's even better, I said. If we keep this up, they will actually run out of supplies, and then they will have to come back into the training area to pick up the supplies. Oh, that gives me an idea, Jens said. She took a couple of grenades, pulled the pins, and slipped them under some gear so it held the handles down. This'll slow them up even more. I love you, my devious witch. I laughed. Compliments like that will earn you a kiss, she replied, and planted a big one on me. We headed back to the edge of the training area and up to our targeted area. We found a good bunch of bushes to hide under, and Jens set up the laptop and dish and put Lassie in watchdog mode. I pulled out my bionic ears and turned them off. Wow, it feels good having those out. I scratched my ears. Good sleep, my love, Jens said. Sleep well, my fiancé, I replied, and we both drifted off to sleep. For hours later I woke up, started stretching, which woke Jens. I looked at my watch and said, 4 hours of sleep. I feel much better. Jens squeezed me and said, you always feel good to me. I gave her a kiss. She rolled over and checked the computer. Wow, this is a really good hiding place. I think we can come back here anytime we need a rest. Are you hungry? Just for you, I said, and kissed her again. She kissed me back with enthusiasm. Maybe we could just stay here all day and kiss and cuddle, Jens purred. About that time, her phone started vibrating. She grabbed it and answered. It was the general. While she was busy on the phone, I slipped out of our hiding place and took care of some duties. When I made it back, Jens handed me the phone, and the general didn't waste any time. Son, you two are doing a great job. I was worried because nothing had happened for 4 hours, but Jens told me you two were sleeping. I do have some bad news. While the mission is still ending on Friday at 2400, You two will need to stay in the area until 0900 on Saturday. I will personally contact you right after 2400 with an explanation and more orders. Also, I'll not be there until the same time on Saturday, but I'll be monitoring Brigadier General Thompson to make sure he doesn't try any more funny business. That's all I can tell you for right now. Do you have any questions? Sir, I don't understand your orders, but I don't need to understand them to be able to follow them, I answered. That's what I expected from you. Now let me say goodbye to Jens, the general said. I handed the phone back to Jens, and they talked for a few more minutes. After they finished, I asked Jens, do you know what is going on? What do you mean, my love? She replied. I told her about our new orders, and she replied, damn, he didn't even tell me. I have no idea what is going on, but I'm a little pissed we have to spend another night in here. I want to go home and sleep in our own bed and eat some real food. We ate some more food. Jens was right. MREs were getting old even with the way she could spice them up. She checked the laptop, made some notes, shut it down, and packed it up. We're coming back here tonight to get some real sleep, she announced, and we headed off to our first target. It doesn't make sense for us to wait at the edge of the training area for the patrols. We'll go deeper into the training area and wait for them to come to us. Plus, we need to be random on the groups we take out so they won't figure out what we're doing, Jens said. All day, we moved from patrol to patrol and intercepted them on their searches. We made each one leave all their gear, took what we wanted, and booby-trapped the rest. Later in the afternoon, the BG had supply issues and started sending in patrols to collect the gear, and they were running into some nasty surprises in the form of the booby traps Jens left. The morale of the troops was getting pretty low. Jens and I were flying high, but our strength was flagging. I looked at her and said, I never thought I would say this, but I am getting tired of killing. It's been too easy, and I hate to see what it is doing to the troops. I'm thinking of letting us die to give the troops a morale boost. Jens's eyes sparked in warning before she slapped me across the face. Are you crazy? It's not our fault the BG doesn't know what he's doing and is running his troops into the ground. There's no way in hell we're going to quit, so get your head out of your butt. We were told by the general to train these troops, and that's what we're going to do. I rubbed my face. My girl sure packed a wallop. You're right. Sorry, I'm just tired. How about we head back to our hiding place and sleep the rest of the night? Jens raked her bottom lip with her teeth. Even contrite, she was sexy. Sorry I slapped you, but you were being stupid. I'm tired, too. Let's go and get some sleep. We ran back to our hiding place and crawled into the bushes. Jens set up the laptop in the dish and put it in watchdog mode, and then she gave me some Hudson Bay bread. I'm too bush to cook. Let's eat this tonight. She didn't get any complaints from me. We held each other and slipped off to sleep. Kadaba, Pakistan, evening of day 16. Mustafa was smiling and whistling when he came in to see me this morning. Good morning, Sergeant Major Blaine. Perhaps I will just call you Benny since we are becoming such good friends. I trust you slept well last night, and the rats didn't bother you too much. He laughed. I haven't decided what I will do to you today. Perhaps you would tell me what you would like me to do to you? I didn't say a word. Come on now, Benny. You need to speak to me. If you don't, we can always go back to the tortures, Mustafa threatened. I still didn't answer him. Mustafa stopped smiling. Okay then. You won't talk to me, then I might as well kill you. He pulled out his pistol, cocked it, and put it against the side of my head. I wasn't worried because Zarika had told me that he couldn't kill me. Mustafa was looking at my face. I knew he was hoping to see fear, and I just smiled at him. He pulled the trigger, and the pistol clicked. I didn't even flinch. His brows knit as he tried to work through this. Finally, I said something. Today is a good day to die. It was a lie. Jens had made me promise to never say that again and mean it, but Mustafa didn't know that. It put him at a loss, so he just injected me and left, coming back every few hours to give me another injection. I'm sure that he's trying to get me addicted to whatever narcotics they're injecting me with. They cause a sense of euphoria. Zarika came in again. It was later than normal, and she had a black eye. I asked her about it, and she told me that the leader beat her last night. I asked her why, but she just looked at the floor. That damned scumsucker. Nothing burns me up more than the abuse of women and children. She cleaned me up, gave me a clean pair of pants, took care of the bruises on my face, and redressed the rat bites on my feet and legs. She smiled most of the time, and said that the bites were doing much better. She also mentioned that Mustafa told the leader about the fake execution and what I said. The leader beat him for his stupidity and said, he is part American Indian, and with what you have done to him, he wants to die. You're just building his hopes. Stop being an ignorant fool. Keep sedating him and find a way to turn him against America and win his trust. Zarika fed me some more stew tonight and even gave me some bread and all the water I could drink. I thanked Zarika and told her that someday, I would find a way to pay her back. She looked me in the eyes and said, I know that you will escape. When you do, take me to America with you. At least she had faith that I was going to escape. The guards came in and leered at Zarika. God, what she must be going through just to help me. I felt humbled that someone I don't even know would sacrifice so much for me, and it made me even more pissed off at the scumsuckers that force her to do it. They've tied me up to the ceiling and left the lights on. I guess the only rats that will bother me tonight are the ones that are brave, and I'll kill them. I turned my thoughts toward home. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Friday, day 13. The birds were singing when I woke up. I looked at my watch and I couldn't believe that we had slept until 0500 without anyone finding us. I peeked under the bushes the best I could, and my movement woke Yentz. I kissed her ear, and she shivered. Good morning, sleepyhead. I whispered. Any good dreams last night? She answered with a small smile. I slept like a baby, dreaming of our babies. I never did ask you, how many babies can we have? How about 8 or 9? I tried to find words. She laughed. Don't worry, my love, I was just teasing you. I finally found my voice. That's a terrible thing to ask a man the first thing in the morning. I could have died of a heart attack. Then I would have to give you mouth to mouth like this, Yentz answered, kissing me deeply. When she finally let go of the lip lock, I said, wow, keep kissing me like that and we might have 10 kids, and we both laughed. Yentz finally got serious. So what happened last night? I was sure we would be bothered. I'm going to check the computer. We both rolled over and checked it. Very strange, Yentz mused. Everything looks fine, just like yesterday. I don't understand why a patrol didn't find us. Yentz ran a playback from the time we were asleep. Shit. She swore. Honey, please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake. I made a mistake turning on the watchdog program last night. 3 patrols walked right past us. Thank God they didn't find us. I'd never seen so many wrinkles in her forehead. I held her close and whispered in her ear. Don't worry, my love. We all make mistakes. It's a good thing that I'm so lucky. Otherwise, this could have been serious. My laughter broke the tension in Yentz. It's a really good thing that you don't snore, Yentz answered. Otherwise, your luck wouldn't matter. And it's a good thing you weren't snoring very loud, I said. Otherwise, my luck wouldn't matter. Jen arched one brow. I don't snore. I answered, yes, and there's an Easter bunny, Santa Claus, and of course honest lawyers. Yentz tried to tickle me, and I just let her until I got tired of it and grabbed on the sides for a good tickle. That's when Lassie barked, playing the Addams Family. You're so lucky that we have work to do, I assured her. Otherwise, I would have tickled you until you peed. I smell bad enough already without adding that to the mix, she answered, wrinkling her nose. I leaned over and sniffed her. You smell very healthy and wonderful to me. At least you didn't wear any perfume. Police, she said. Most of that crap smells nasty. She turned back to the computer. We need to stop screwing around and figure where this patrol is so that we can go get them. We both looked at the real-time data on Lassie. Yentz said, it looks like we'll be busy today. The BG must have retrieved all the weapons. There are even more patrols today than yesterday. The one that set off the alarm was just moving past us, so we don't need to worry. Let me have a few minutes to do some analysis. Then she was off in her own little world with her square-headed boyfriend. I took care of my morning business, made the MREs and handed one to Yentz, and checked our weapons. We had plenty of .223 ammo for the standard M4S, but we only had 1 mag each for the suppressed M4S. This was going to make things much harder today. Finally, Yentz came out of her trance and looked at the empty MRE in her hand. Oh, thank you, my love. I didn't even realize I ate. Don't worry, you were busy saving our butts, I replied. I do have some bad news for you. We only have 1 mag each for the suppressed M4S. Shit, she answered. There goes any hope of being stealthy about what we're doing. I'm going to have to come up with some new plans. Then she was busy thinking again. After another 10 minutes, she looked at me. Tell me if you have any better ideas. This is all I could think of. We need to go commando today. I was going to make a wise comment, but Yentz beat me to it. No, I don't mean taking off our underwear. Although I suppose if I ran around in the nude it might be a distraction. She smiled at me. After thinking about and looking at everything, here's the plan. I figure we're in better shape and are more rested than any other troops. We dump all the gear, even Lassie, back where we left George's sniper rifle, and we load up with just mags for the M4S. Then, avoiding the snipers and using your bionic ears, we run through the training area and attack any patrols that we find. We take out as many as we can, and then take off running. Sort of a run and gun plan. She bit her lower lip and gave me a questioning look. I replied, well, that was what I figured we had to do. We do know the training area better than anyone else, and we still have the traps that we can set. If we travel light and keep moving, we can outrun anyone else. What are the odds of us living through this? I knew you were going to ask me, she answered. Not good. It's 80% that one of us will survive, and only 50% that the other will survive. That's not acceptable, I said. How does this affect the odds? I give you one bionic ear and we split up. Jens entered the new data. That's better. We both have an 85% chance of surviving. That's all I can think of, she said. I have one more idea, I said. I called the RSO on the radio. RSO, this is Unit Bravo Juliet. I hope that you and all the troops had a good night's sleep. I know that we did. Unit Bravo Juliet, we were wondering if you left. We haven't heard from you for a long time, the RSO replied. Why are you calling? I continued. I had a question about the rules of engagement. It doesn't seem fair to me that dead men can carry their own weapons out of the training area. They're dead, and unless someone else in their patrol or platoon carries the weapons, shouldn't they be left where they died? That's a good question, Unit Bravo Juliet. Give the referees a few minutes to discuss this, the RSO replied. Jens gave me a squeeze. Honey, that's brilliant. It'll force the BG to expend resources to carry out the weapons. Otherwise, he will run out of weapons again. It's even better than that, I said. It's hard as hell to fight when you're carrying multiple packs and weapons. If we attack a platoon and run away, we can come back to the same platoon in 10 or 15 minutes and hit them again. They won't be able to fight as well carrying all that crap. Eventually, the BG will figure this out, and then he'll leave the weapons. It's the only thing he can do. Jens started typing commands on the computer again. The RSO called back. Unit Bravo Juliet, the referees have looked at your request, and they all agree that it's valid. In fact, they can't believe we haven't been doing this all along. With that, he called all the troops in the training area and informed them of the addition to the rules of engagement. Jen looked up from the computer and smiled. My love, you have just raised the odds to 90%, and we're now able to fight together again. Well, I said, let's get out there and kick butt and take names. My love, Jens asked, can I go take care of my morning duties first? I just laughed and said, take your time, my love. I waited until I was sure she was in a compromising position and typed some keys on her computer. It started playing the Pac-Man death song. She came running out of the bushes trying to pull up her pants and saw me laughing my butt off. Hey, that wasn't nice. I thought you were dead, she cried. I stopped laughing long enough to say, no, but it was funny as hell. When did you learn how to operate the computer? Jens asked. I have been working on computers since I was a little boy. My first computer was a 486 with 1 meg of RAM and a 40 meg hard drive. You didn't know this? I answered. No, Jens said. I never saw you on one, and I figured you didn't know how to do much. I guess there are still some things that I need to learn about you. Now can I go and finish my business in peace? Sure, I said. Of course, as soon as I was sure she was busy again, I typed a few more keys, and the computer played the wedding march. I waited a bit too long, and Jens came out of the bushes pretending she was walking down the aisle at our wedding. Thanks, my love, she said with a smile. I need all the practice I can get for our wedding. You like what you see? You look lovely in camo, but you'll look even better in a white wedding dress, I replied. You say the nicest things. But I guess I'll have to make sure to lock the screen the next time I leave the computer, Jens said. We packed up everything and headed down the edge of the training area to Location Delta, the new name for where we left George's rifle. Jens took a few minutes setting up the site. She even set up the laptop and satellite dish, turned them on, and hooked up the solar charger. She had been using the charger whenever she could to keep the laptop batteries charged. I set up our web belts with as many mag holders and mags as I could. We weren't taking any packs other than our camelbacks. I did throw the last of the Hudson Bay bread into our camelbacks. I figured we would need something to eat. I also set up the Alice packs so we could grab them in an emergency. Last, we even took off our ghillie suits. Damn, Jens said. I feel almost naked without my G-suit. If you were, you'd be in your B-suit, I replied. What's a B-suit? She asked. You know, the clothes you were born in your birthday suit. We both laughed. I changed the subject. It would be nice if we had a wrist computer that could give us the information that Lassie gives us. Perhaps they could communicate over some sort of secure wireless network. Jens gave me an amazed look. That's a great idea. I bet I could modify a PDA to run Linux. The problem would be, I cut her off. That's something for later, my love. We need to get moving. We took one last look at the sniper locations. I gave Jens one of my bionic ears, and she whittled on it with her K-bar until it fit her ear. She looked at me. Sorry, my love. I'll buy you a new one when we get home. Don't worry. I have extras, I said. Jens had been quiet the day before, but was much better today. I whispered, the bionic ear makes you realize how noisy you are, and you are doing much better today. When we get yours, you and I will practice. It'll help you distinguish sounds better. When you get really good, you can tell who certain people are just by the noises they make. That's how you knew about George? She whispered. Yes, I replied in a whisper. I can tell most of the snipers by their sounds. They think they're being quiet, but they really aren't. We will work very hard on the noises that you make. I want you to be better than I am. Hey, listen close now and tell me what you hear. She did and answered. I heard someone sneeze. There's a patrol close by. I also hear some gear rattling and something creaking. Good. The gear is someone's dog tags. They didn't put covers on them. Learn that sound, because this is a common mistake. The creaking comes from the straps on someone's Alice pack. They need to get a new one. What you did miss was the water sloshing in a canteen and the Marine cracking his knuckles. But that's really good for the first time. It will be even better when you have 2 bionic ears. I replied. Ah, I hear those now that you mention them. This is so cool. I can hear so many things, she gushed. The trick is not getting distracted by all the background sounds. Learn to filter them out and listen just for the sounds that don't belong. Shall we go get this patrol? I replied. I'm ready for anything, Jen answered. Even without our ghillie suits, we were able to get quite close to the platoon, 25 meters from the back. It was a large platoon. They had to have at least 20 Marines. We ducked down in some bushes beside the trail and started shooting them with our M4S, killing 5 before we took off running, dodging as we ran. We ran for 10 minutes and could hear that no one was chasing us, so we stopped beside the trail. Damn, that was too close, Jens said, and continued. Next time we need to be at least 50 meters away. This is the trail they have to take to get to the entrance. Shall we find a good place to hide and see what they do? We ended up hiding in some trees. About 30 minutes later, the 4 dead came walking back towards the entrance with 4 Marines following them carrying their gear. I whispered to Jens, shit, this is better than I thought. They divided up the platoon. At 100 meters we opened fire and killed the 4 live platoon members. They dropped all the gear and kept moving for the entrance. Damn, I said, they look really tired and worn out. I hate to see the men like this. The BG has pushed them too hard. Tell me, my love, does he have any combat experience? Jens whispered back. He was at Granada, but didn't see any real action. He has men in his command that know what to do, but I think that we hurt his pride, so it's become personal with him. Both Daddy and I thought this would happen. When this is over, I'm sure that he will be reassigned to a job back in Washington. His men love him and will do anything he tells them, but he doesn't have any idea what to do. You know, we'll have to spend weeks preparing our analysis of what happened and our recommendations on how we would have handled the situations. Oh great, I thought. More meetings. Jens said, don't worry, my love. I'll protect you from the dreaded meetings. Right now, I need you to cover me, I said. I'm going to go and make a mess of the gear the dead Marines just left. I jumped down out of the trees and went over to the gear. I wanted to field strip all the M4S and throw the bolts into the undergrowth, but that was technically destruction of government property, so I didn't do it. I did dump out all the packs and scattered stuff everywhere, and then did the same trick with some grenades that Jens did yesterday. I made it back to the trees just in time. After I was back close to Jens, I whispered, listen and tell me what you hear. Ah, I hear someone that doesn't know how to walk quietly. I hear a squeaky noise, I don't know what it is. I hear someone humming a song. I hear someone slapping a bug. Jens replied, very good. But did you hear the grasshopper at your feet? I quoted from the Kung Fu TV show, and trying to keep from laughing. Jens replied, are you trying to make me laugh? Besides, my name is not Kane, and I am not a Shaolin monk. Although sometimes I feel like one. You might look cute with a bald head, I joked. You must be thinking of that Demi Moore bitch in G.I. Jane. She was such a poser, Jens replied. We fell silent because the rest of the platoon had just found the equipment. They were tired and bitching about the mess that I made. Finally, one of the Marines picked up a pack and the grenade went off, taking out 3 more. Jens and I opened fire and took out another 4 before we jumped out of the tree and started running further down the trail. This time, we only ran 5 minutes and then stopped. I said to Jens, let's throw them for a loop and sneak around behind them. We headed off the trail and looped around behind them. They had just finished picking up the extra gear and started towards the entrance. Each Marine had at least 1 extra pack and gun, which would mess with their ability to fight. They were also focusing their attention on where they thought we were, rather than checking behind them. We walked up to 25M and shot them all. They all dropped the gear and headed towards the entrance. Jens and I went over and resupplied, picking up a bunch more M4 mags. We then booby-trapped the hell out of the rest of the gear. We did this 4 more times with great success. It was early evening, and in another 6 hours this exercise was done. We were walking along a trail looking for more platoons when we came upon weapons and gear in the middle of the trail. Jens whispered to me, "That isn't one of ours. This is a trap." I said, "Sniper." Hit the ground. We both dove in the bushes just in time. A shot went off right after we hit the ground. "Damn, that was close," Jens said. "How did you know?" "I heard the rustle of the spotter's ghillie suit," I replied. "I'm not sure who it is yet. They're pretty quiet. But I do know where they are. They're up on the hill at 3 o'clock. "Wait. No, it sounds like they are leaving." Jens said, "Heard that, but it only sounded like one person." "Very good, my love, you're right. It was only the spotter that left. I bet he's going to try to flank us. The sniper is still up there waiting for us." My voice was filled with pride for Jens. The brush was deep where we were, so we crawled some to try to find better cover. 30 minutes later, Jens said, "What's that I hear?" "It's the spotter again. He's over where we were. I guess they didn't realize we moved." "That means the sniper has no idea where we are," I said. "We should be able to jump up, each take a shot at the spotter, and be back down before the sniper can hit us." We moved further apart to make it more difficult for the sniper. I said, "On 3. 1, 2, 3. We jumped up, each fired a shot at the spotter, heard his tactical vest go off, and were back under the cover before the sniper got a shot. I yelled to the spotter, "Make sure you leave everything including your ghillie suit," to which we heard some choice swear words. Now it was time to deal with the sniper. We'd started working our way up the sides of the hill. Jens took on one side and me on the other, when we heard a patrol coming. I called Jens on the radio. "Shit, I think the sniper called in our position. We could be really screwed now." Jens replied, "Let's not screw with this guy. How many grenades do you have?" I answered, "I have 5. "Good," Jens replied. "I have another 5. We're close enough. Let's just grenade the hell out of this sniper and then get out of here." "Sounds like a plan," I replied. Jens said, "On 3. 1, 2, 3. We started throwing grenades like crazy. On Jens's second throw, we heard the tactical vest go off. The patrol wasn't there yet, so I called Jens. "Follow me. We're going to take over the sniper position and kill this patrol." I jumped up and ran to where the sniper was with Jens following. He was still getting out of his ghillie suit. We fell down beside him. He was just a kid, probably 19 years old. He looked at me and looked at Jens, smiled real big and said, "This has been the best day of my life meeting both of you. I just wish I would have hit you on that first shot. I'm Josh, and you're the reason I became a sniper." He looked at me. "I know you're going to take out the patrol with my rifle, and I know that I'm supposed to leave the training area, but would you please let me stay and watch?" Jens said, "He's cute, bonsai. Let him stay." "Okay, kid, you can stay, but you need to stay out of our way," I replied. He was ecstatic. I crawled behind the rifle, looked at it, then I looked over at the kid. "This is a damn nice rifle that you have. It's set up perfect." The kid was grinning from ear to ear. The patrol moved into range. I asked Jens, "Please range me, my sweetheart." "You say the nicest things, my love." Range, 674 meters. Elevation, -7. Wind, 2 at 30. I made the adjustments on the scope, found my target and fired, racked the bolt, and did it 4 more times. Then I loaded up the M40 with another stripper clip and fired, killing the other 5. Josh remarked, "That was smooth shooting. It's been my dream to watch you. You've just made it come true." "Thank you. I can't wait to tell the other snipers that I got to watch Bonsai Ben." He left and went down the hill. Suddenly I felt old, very old. Josh was the wave of the future. He was only 19 and already a damned good sniper. "Don't worry, my love," Jens said, knowing what I was thinking. "I'll still love you when you're old and gray. I'll even push your wheelchair." I said the only word I could think of, "Shit," and Jens started laughing. The hilltop wasn't safe. If we could kill a sniper up here, then anyone could. Before another patrol could come, we bugged out. It was almost dark, and we need to get back to location Delta. Without our ghillie suits on, it was too easy to see us at night with NV gear. We ran into one more patrol on our way back and harassed the hell out of them until they were all dead. Jens made some MREs after we arrived at Delta. We'd run out of Hudson Bay bread at lunchtime. "Damn, this tastes good. I'm really hungry. All this running and killing raises my appetite," I said. "What does it make you hungry?" Jens teased. I said the only thing I could think of, throwing up. "EW. That's gross, but it's a good comeback," Jens said with a smile. "So, my love and my boss, what are we doing for the rest of the night?" Darkness has fallen and the snipers like modern-day vampires come out to play. I answered in my best scary voice and continued. To move among mere mortal men like wraiths and shadows, and to inflict their blood toll on all. I ended with an evil laugh. Wow, that's really good. Who's the author? Yince asked. I just made it up, I answered. Yince replied. Perhaps you should write a book? No frickin' thank you. I answered I have real work to do, and we need to get to it right now. I thought that since we're almost invisible in our ghillie suits, we would sneak up on the patrols and use our suppressed Ruger MKIs. They don't even make enough flash for the snipers to see. I love it when you take charge, Yince said. But don't you think this is risky? Ask Lassie and see what she thinks, I said. Yince checked her computer and ran a couple of test scenarios. We heard the wedding march each time. Wow, not bad. I guess my old man can come up with a good plan occasionally. Oh well, if I'm so old, then I guess I'd better withdraw my marriage proposal. I wouldn't want you stuck with a toothless old geezer, I said, and laughed. Hey, you'd better not. Yince said. You remember what Mom said she would do to you, and after she was done with you, I would do even worse. Then we both laughed because we knew we were joking. At least I hoped that Yince was joking. When she gets pissed, bad things happen, and there are certain parts of my anatomy I'm quite fond of. Don't worry, my love, I was joking, Yince said. I'm fond of those parts of your anatomy too, and someday I hope to fondle them. I blushed. Damn, I keep forgetting that she can feel my emotions. We moved out. We only had 3 more hours until this exercise was over, and we could have hunkered down somewhere to wait it out, but that just wasn't in me. The plan was daring, and we wouldn't have done it normally, but we knew the men were tired and making mistakes. Plus, Lassie the computer barked her approval. We could always fall back on our M4S if we found ourselves in real trouble. With all the patrols out, it didn't take long to run across our first one. We worked our way close to the back of the patrol, and when we were within range, we started firing our suppressed Ruger MKIs. They had no idea what was happening or where we were. All they knew was that they were dying. The smarter ones dropped to the ground, but every time they rose up, we shot them. 15 minutes later, they were all dead and walking towards the entrance without their gear. We were able to find 2 more platoons and eliminate them before we heard the RSO over the radios. It is now 2400. The exercise has formally ended. All troops except for Unit Bravo Juliet pick up your gear and any gear that you find and return to the entrances. Yince ran over to me, jumped up into my arms, and smothered me with kisses. We did it, my love. I was sure that we could. This was so much fun. I wish we could go home and get cleaned up and go to sleep. I don't understand why we can't. Damn it. When will Daddy call me? Let's not wait for him to call, I said. Let's head back to location Delta and pick up our gear. We turned off our bionic ears, and as we started walking towards Delta, Yince's phone vibrated. She almost broke her arm getting it out of her pocket. She sat down and talked with the general for a while, and then she motioned me over to sit beside her. She hit the speakerphone button. Yince, is this phone encrypted? And good morning, son. Can you hear me? The general asked. Yes, it is, Daddy, and we can both hear you, Yince replied. The general continued. First, I would like to congratulate both of you. While the exercise has been an embarrassment for the Corps, it has shown us that we need to place the proper commanders at our training bases. It has also shown us that with the proper training and motivation, 2 Marines can defeat an entire army. We both said thank you. On a side note, son, I made the bet that you asked me to make. I was able to get 5-to-1 odds. You and Yince just made $250,000. Don't spend it all in one place. The general laughed. I'm sorry for making both of you stay in the training area until tomorrow morning at 0900. I'm also sorry I didn't tell you this earlier, but I didn't want to distract you. As you know, this training mission made it to Milnet. In fact, it was all over Milnet. Everyone became interested in watching you too, and we couldn't get anyone to do any work. Shit, even the president was asking about you too. Wow, we were thinking. The president. The general wasn't done yet. Somehow it was even leaked to the press. They put 2 and 2 together and figured out that you are the ones who won the Leadville race. They're eating it up, especially when you 2 took out the SEAL platoons. Somehow, they even got a recording of Yince telling the SEALs they were soft. Naturally, they had to censor part of it in the news report. I almost started laughing, remembering how funny that was. I'm sure Yince was blushing. You know how this country is right now. They need heroes, and you 2 are the closest thing that we have. The networks have been driving everyone crazy and have been interviewing anyone they can to get information. They found one couple you took with you last weekend, and the sergeant's wife spilled her guts about you 2. Shit, she even told them that you 2 were engaged but were going to wait until you were married to do it. Well, that sealed the deal. And the press is calling you too, the all-American couple. We were both feeling really humbled. The general had still more to tell us. Shit, we've had to hire an advertising firm so that they could protect your rights. There are talks of G.I. Joe dolls of both of you, and we released a poster. It's one of pictures I took when Ben proposed. They can't keep it in the stores. You two are going to be very rich from this. Young boys are pretending to be soldiers again, and young girls are starting to dress like Jens and saying they're going to wait until they're married. I heard Jens sniffling. I hugged her close to me. The general wasn't done. This is much bigger than Leadville was. It's international. We've had 4 sniper teams withdraw from next week's sniper competition. France was the first, followed by Switzerland, Iceland, and even Germany. They don't want to come here and be embarrassed. We were speechless. This was unbelievable. The general said, "So, why are you staying in the training area until 0900? Jens answered, "Yes, damn it. We want to go home." I can understand that, and you deserve to go home. You have earned that and more. Let me explain why I'm ordering you to stay. When you come out of the training area tomorrow morning at 0900, it will be an international news event. Right now, we have all the major news organizations trying to get set up at the entrance to the training area. It's a real zoo. An opportunity like this has never happened for the Marines, and we are going to get the most out of it that we can. There is no way that we could set this up before 0900 tomorrow. The logistics of a presidential visit take some time to work out. We both thought, damn, the president is coming tomorrow. Pay attention, you too, the general said. Here are my orders. We have dropped all the supplies that you will need to get cleaned up and look presentable, including new pairs of MCCUU and old-style ghillie suits, by the lake with written instructions. You will also find a hot meal and cots. Sleep well tonight. The first thing in the morning, get cleaned up in the lake, dress in the new MCCUUs, and follow the rest of the written instructions. These are my orders. Do you have any questions? I can never keep my mouth shut, so I said, Sir, Jens and I would like to say what you've told us is almost unbelievable. I would like to make one more request. If you didn't include our M107 Barretts and our Barrett 98 Bravos in the gear, I would like them to be dropped off at the lake. I want to walk out of here with all the weapons we came in with. Jens squeezed my hand in agreement. That's an excellent idea, son. I'll make sure that the rifles are there. Now let me talk to Jens some more. The general finished, and Jens took the phone off speaker and talked for a while longer. We ran to Location Delta and picked up the rest of our gear, and then ran back to the lake and enjoyed our hot meals. Jens pushed both the cots together so we could cuddle, and we talked about what the general had told us well into the 0 hours. Kadaba, Pakistan, evening of day 17. Mustafa was moving slowly and looked pretty stiff when he walked in today. I guess the leader gave the son of a bitch a good beating. Now he knows what it feels like. I decided to take the offensive for the first time today. It's time Mustafa got some of the same shit that he was giving me. Zarika has given me the perfect tool to screw with his mind. I started singing some bogus Indian-sounding mumbo-jumbo as he came closer to me. He stood in front of me and looked at me like I was crazy, and I kept singing for another 5 minutes. He didn't know what to do. I finished, looked at him, and said, Good morning, Mustafa. I hope you brought your gun with you today. I've just finished singing my death song, and I'm ready to die. If you don't want to do it, give me a knife, and I will. Then I shouted, Today is a good day to die. He stood there for about 10 minutes as if his tongue was frozen to his teeth. So I started singing the same bogus crap again as loud as I could. He tried to shush me, but I just kept singing. Not knowing what else to do, he injected me with a dose of the narcotic. He flinched when I said that, and the needle went through my vein and into the muscle beneath. It hurt like hell, but I didn't say anything. I knew it meant that the dose wasn't going to work on me, at least not very fast. So I looked upward and said, Oh, unequal one, either grant me death or keep this evil man's narcotics from affecting me, and started singing again. Mustafa waited for the narcotic to work. When it didn't, he was visibly shaken, and he left. I kept singing crap for another 10 minutes. I guess all the westerns that I watched when I was a kid did end up helping me. The extra guards kept peeking in the room, and every time they did, I would start singing again. They looked freaked out and closed the door. The guard that they left in the room looked like he was going to shit in his man dress. After about 2 hours, the door opened, and in walked the leader and Mustafa, who now had 2 black eyes, and behind both of them was Zarika. I put on a real show this time with my bogus Indian singing and made them stand in front of me for 10 minutes before saying anything. Then I looked up to the ceiling again and said in a loud voice, Unequa, I have honored you and sung my death song. Please let death come quickly for me and in an honorable fashion. I looked at the leader and said, Let me die an honorable death. Give me a knife. I will fight all of you, my knife against your guns. I'm ready to die. Today is a good day to die. I started chanting again. They tried to talk to me, but I wouldn't stop singing. Finally, Mustafa stepped up and punched me in the mouth. This pissed the leader off. He started beating the crap out of Mustafa, and I kept singing. I looked at Zarika and slipped in some Russian words while I was singing, hoping she would understand. She did, and came over to me and started cleaning up my mouth where it was bleeding. I stopped singing. The leader stopped beating Mustafa, and they both looked at Zarika taking care of me. The leader said something to Zarika and she backed away from me and winked. I started singing again, as loud as I could. The leader said something else to Zarika. She came back and started taking care of me again, and I stopped singing. They brought in a third chair, and the leader and Mustafa sat across from me. Zarika sat at my feet and put her head against my legs. The leader asked me, "Why do you stop singing when Zarika takes care of you?" I lied through my teeth. Her spirit is pure and reminds me of the spirit of my little sister who died. It would be dishonorable to my sister's spirit to sing my death song while Zarika is caring for me. The leader didn't understand completely. He asked Mustafa questions until I could see that he understood. He continued, "Do you not want to try to escape to get back to America? The Great Spirit has told me that I'll never escape and to prepare myself to live with my ancestors. I've done that, and I am ready to die. Please kill me today." Again, Mustafa had to translate part of what I said. "We know you are a great warrior. We had hoped to be your friend," the leader replied. "If this is the way you treat friends, then I would rather die than be your friend. I don't even know your name. Kill me now. My ancestors are waiting," I said, with Mustafa filling in some of the blanks for the leader. "Ah, I see. My name is Hussein. What can we do to become friends with you?" The leader asked with Mustafa helping. "Hussein, your men have treated me worse than a pig, with Mustafa being the worst offender. Give Mustafa to your men like you have done with the little boy, and we can discuss this more," I answered. It was really satisfying to see the worried look on Mustafa's face as he tried to translate this to Hussein. Hussein figured out that Mustafa mistranslated and started beating him again. Finally, Mustafa translated it right. Hussein stopped beating him and said, "I do not speak or understand English well, and if I kill Mustafa, we cannot talk. Is there something else that I can do to become your friend? I might be able to be your friend. You are a man of honor. But I will die before I become friends with Mustafa. He has no honor. I understand we need him for now, but I don't like him. He's a terrible person. I used the worst insult I could think of. Tell him to stop beating and sedating me, treat me like a friend, and let Zarika visit me whenever she wants. Her presence calms me. Consider what I've said, and we can talk tomorrow," I said. They both looked puzzled and tried to ask me some more questions. I looked up at the ceiling and started acting like I was praying to the Great Spirit, chanting a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. They realized that I wasn't going to talk to them anymore and left, leaving Zarika with me. When the room was empty other than the guards, Zarika asked me if I was serious. I told her it was all an act, and she laughed softly. She told me that they didn't know what to do, but they couldn't let me die because Hussein still wanted to trade me for his brother. She asked me if I was hungry. I was, so she left to get me some food. When she left, I again pretended to sing my death song until she came back, just because it freaked the guards out. Zarika and I ate some good stew together. She said that she could get good food for both of us whenever we wanted. The way she said it told me that she was holding something back. When I insisted that she tell me the rest, she admitted that all the food she had been feeding me at night was hers and that she was going hungry. That really pissed me off. She misinterpreted my body language. Her eyes filled with tears and she started apologizing, but she calmed down when I explained that I was angry that I was the cause of her going hungry, and I thanked her. Reassured, she mentioned that while she was getting the food, she overheard two of the others discussing what to do. They had decided to bring in a religious leader to talk to me and try to convert me. I told her that would happen when pigs fly, but she didn't understand the joke and asked me with wide eyes if we had flying pigs in America. I did my best to explain what the saying meant, but I don't think I did very well. She cleaned me up, took care of the old and new bruises on my face, and changed the bandages on my feet and ankles. They were looking much better. Then she got the guards to untie my left hand, and we played chess and talked the rest of the afternoon as the guards watched. I asked her if it would be a problem if they knew we both spoke Russian. She said they already knew, and it wasn't a problem. They thought they could use her to get information out of me, but she had been telling them the same bullshit that I had been telling them. When it got closer to evening, she left and came back with some more food, including some bread, and we ate together. Now Hussein and Mustafa have come in again. Damn. Mustafa is even more beat up than when he left. I guess Hussein was still really pissed. Serves Mustafa right. Hussein asks me how my day was, and I tell him it was better. He explains that they can't trust me not to try to escape, so they still need to tie me up at night. but they're going to move me to a room that has a bed and no rats, and I'll be tied to the bed. Zarika will spend the night with Hussein, and he makes sure to tell me, if I try to escape, he will give her to his men. I nod to tell him I understand, and tell him that I could never be friends with someone who beats a woman. He nods, and I know he understands. They move me to the new room, tie me to the bed, and leave an armed guard in the room. Zarika kisses me on the cheek and smiles at me, and the three of them leave me and the guard alone for the night. As soon as they're gone, I softly sing my death song again just to freak out the guard. I almost put myself into a trance with the chanting as I lose myself in memories. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Saturday, day 14. Yince and I woke up that morning at the same time. I still couldn't believe how wonderful it felt waking up next to her and looking into those violet eyes and seeing her love and adoration. Yince gave me a kiss and said, "I feel that today is going to be a life-changing day for us. After we walk out of the training area today, our lives will never be the same." I returned her kiss. "I feel the same way. Are you nervous or worried about this?" "I'm a little nervous, a little worried, and a whole lot sad. From what Daddy told us, it will be hard for us to ever find time to be alone again. But this is something that's more important than you or me, and we need to do it." She sighed. "Are you forgetting that once it's rebuilt, we'll have the cabin? It's hard to find, and we can always shoot any trespassers. You did know you're moving in with me, didn't you?" That was the right thing to say. Yince rolled over on top of me. The cot collapsed, but it didn't bother us. She smothered me with kisses and crushed me with hugs. "I really wanted to move in with you, but I was afraid to ask you. Thank you, my love. You won't be sorry. I'm going to take such good care of you. You're going to be so spoiled." She kept this up for about 10 minutes. When she gets excited, she can sure talk. Yince's phone started vibrating and I said, "Cheating on me with B.O.B.? Huh." Yince said as try to get the phone out of her pocket. "You know," I replied, "B.O.B., your battery-operated boyfriend." She started laughing and blushing and answered the phone. It was both General and Mrs. Donaldson this time. They shared the phone between them. The General wanted to make sure we were getting ready. Yince told him not to worry, we would be on time. He also asked if we had read the instructions, and Yince said that we hadn't yet, but that we would. Then her mom had the phone and Yince asked her if she knew B.O.B. Apparently, she did, because they were both laughing about something. I had worked my way out from under Yince, had found the instructions and started reading them. They didn't make total sense to me, but they were orders and we obey orders. When Yince hung up, she came over to me and gave me a big hug. "That's from Daddy and Mom. They said they'll see us in a few hours." Then she gave me a bigger hug and kiss and said, "That's from me. I don't need B.O.B. I have all the boyfriend I need right here." I showed her the orders. She said, "Shit, we need to get moving. I'd better take my bath first so I can get my hair dried." We broke open the supplies they gave us. They had provided everything: razors for my face and Yince's legs, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant. Shit, they even had battery-operated hair clippers so I could cut my hair. It needed it. After all those days, I looked pretty woolly. Yince took her bath first. I couldn't resist sneaking some peeks at her fine body. Man, is she hot. While she was doing that, I cut my hair and shaved my face. I didn't have much to shave because the Indian in me keeps me from growing much facial hair. Then I took a bath. I caught Yince peeking and couldn't resist teasing her about it, but she gave as good as she got. By the time I came out of the water and was drying off, Yince already had her new MCCUs on, and they were just the right amount of tight in all the right places. I whistled. "Damn, woman, you look really hot in those. They fit you just right." "My love," Yince answered, "these have been tailored to fit me. I'm glad I don't have to wear these for real. They're so tight that I couldn't fight." After I dried off, I put mine on, and they fit me the same way Yince's fit her. Yince had a mirror and was working on her hair. I walked past her acting like I was a supermodel on a catwalk. She started laughing so hard she fell off her cot. "Wow, do you ever look sexy in those? I'm going to need a gun just to keep all the women away from you." I answered, "Hey, I wonder if Elizabeth Morgan will be there. I hear she's pretty hot," and laughed. "Yeah, probably from pissing in her pants." Yince laughed with me. I put Yince's face paint on her, a green base with black tiger strips. She looked in the mirror and matched mine to hers. "Now we even look like twins," she laughed. "You must mean Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito," I answered, referring to the movie they did together. "So, now you're calling me short and fat." Yince acted upset. "You're going to look so cute when you're all fat with our babies," I answered, earning another kiss. A patrol came and told us it was time to go. We gave them our old gear. They would take it out the other entrance and back to the base. Yince told them to be very careful with her laptop or they would be reassigned to Thule, Greenland, and let them know she wasn't kidding. We put on our new Alice packs. They were already pre-packed with the approved gear we were supposed to carry. We put on the old-style ghillie suits, and I took the time to do some work on them so they would blend into the forest. Then we each slung an M4 Whisper over one shoulder and a Barrett 98 Bravo over the other shoulder, picked up the M107 Barretts and started slowly walking to the entrance. We weren't supposed to work up a sweat. Before we got close to the entrance, we could hear the crowd and the full Marine Corps band playing Sousa tunes. I looked at Yinz. I really don't want to do this. Neither do I, she answered, but this will really help make the Corps stronger and will make the world safer for everyone, especially our future children. We got as close as we dared to the entrance and then went into stealth mode, sneaking unseen to just 50 m from the entrance. At 0900, the RSO announced that the training mission was over and fake troops started leaving the training area. The crowd was clapping for them as they left. At 0915, all the troops were gone. You could hear people getting antsy wondering where we were. At 0930 and the show was on. We both slowly stood up, seemingly from nowhere. I threw my M107 onto my left shoulder, muzzle facing forwards but pointing towards the ground. Yinz shouldered hers the same way on her right shoulder, and we met in the middle of the trail and held hands to walk towards the entrance. The crowd went wild, cheering and clapping so loudly that we couldn't even hear the band. We walked hand in hand to the entrance. General Donaldson, D.I. Anderson, and his platoon all stood there, all spit shine and sharp creases. The general held up his hand, the band stopped playing, and the crowd got quiet. D.I. Anderson said, "Marines, Tin Hut," and we all snapped to attention. Unit Bravo Juliet, present arms. We unshouldered the M107s and held them out in front of us. Platoon, retrieve arms. 2 Marines came up, and we passed the M107s. Unit Bravo Juliet, present arms, D.I. Anderson said again. We unslung the 98 Bravo Barretts and went through the same procedure with 2 different Marines. Unit Bravo Juliet, present arms, D.I. Anderson said for the last time. We took off the M4 Whispers and passed them to the Marines, just the same as before. Unit Bravo Juliet, present gear, D.I. Anderson said. We took off our Alice packs and our ghillie suits and passed them to the waiting Marines using the same protocol. When the ghillie suits came off, the crowd started cheering and cameras started flashing. The general held up his hand again and order was restored. D.I. Anderson continued, Unit Bravo Juliet, fall in. Platoon, move out. Left, 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 right, left. We started marching for review. I've never seen such a huge review stand in my life, and it was packed with dignitaries. The band started playing the Marine hymn, and the crowd was cheering. It was controlled pandemonium. We were in the middle of the platoon in the row closest to the stands. When we reached the middle of the stands, D.I. Anderson straightened his spine even more. Platoon, halt. Right face, Tin Hut. We turned towards the stand, and there in the middle of the stands on the lowest row was the President of the United States with his wife standing beside him. Salute. We were commanded, and we did. The President returned the salute. D.I. Anderson continued, left face, forward march. Platoon cadence, the D.I. sang out, and the platoon started singing. Ben and Yinz running on the road. It ain't easy carrying such a load. Ben and Yinz running in the sand, fightin', in Iraq gonna save this land. Ben and Yinz running on a mountain. So many kills we lost track count in. Ben and Yinz swimming in the sea. If you don't want to die, you better leave them be. Fighting and killing, that's their job. That's why we call them devil dogs. When I grow up, I want to be like them. A devil dog until the end. Ora, ora. I was glad that we both had on our faces. Otherwise, they would have gotten some great pictures of us blushing. The DI marched us around past the other review stands and had us stand at attention in front of the main review stand when we returned. The general came out and said, Unit Bravo Juliet, front and center. We stepped forward 2 steps from the platoon and stood at attention. Platoon, close ranks. The platoon moved in to fill our places. Unit Bravo Juliet, salute. We snapped a perfect salute. The president and his wife came down, and the general at-eased us. The president shook our hands and smiled. America is proud of both of you. In 3 days, you have given America back its hope and have put fear in the hearts of our enemies. Thank you both for all that you have done for us. He shook our hands again, and he and his wife embraced us. The press was going crazy, taking pictures. The general's wife came out and stood beside Yinz with her arm around her. The general stood by me with his arm around me. The president's wife stood beside Mrs. Donaldson, and the president stood beside the general. Then we all waved at the reviewing stand, and the crowd and the press went crazy. Just when they simmered down, a bunch of young kids came out running up to us. The girls were dressed like Yinz had been on the day we met, in red Devil Dog t-shirts and pretend MCCUs, and the boys had the same outfit. They ran up to us and started jumping up and down and talking to us, which fired everyone up again. Finally, the president and the general held up their hands and got things quieted down. We made sure to greet each of the children that came up and found out they were members of Bravo Juliet clubs that were starting all over America. The clubs taught marksmanship and most of the Marine Code of Conduct with a heavy emphasis on waiting until you're married. The president and his wife left, and we were ushered over to a raised table for a press conference question-and-answer session. Jens and I were seated with the general and his wife at our sides. The press conference started out bad. The first reporter stood up and started bothering us about waiting until we're married, all but calling us liars. We both got upset and stood up together, saying, "Death before dishonor." All the Marines shouted, "Ora!" Jens glared at him and said, "What in your sick mind won't let you believe that I'm a virgin and that we're going to wait until we're married?" I added, "We aren't a bunch of frickin' animals. We can control our urges." I took both of Jens's hands and said, "I love you, and you're worth waiting for." Then we shared a less-than-chaste kiss. The press started hooting at our kiss and booing the idiot. The general motioned to the MPs, and the offending reporter was removed in disgrace. Ms. Morgan was at the press conference. She said, "Dr. Donaldson, it's good to see you again, and in much better circumstances." Many of the press members snickered at this because they knew about her accident. "Can you describe your working relationship with Ben?" I fielded the question. "Jens is the beauty and the brains of our unit, and Ben is the brawn and the boss." Jens continued, "Could you elaborate more on this?" Ms. Morgan asked. So we both took our turns explaining how our strange relationship works. We could both tell that most of the high-powered female reporters had some big problems with our combined answers. Naturally, this generated a follow-up question from one of them. "Jens, we don't understand how you could subjugate yourself to a man. You're so successful." Jens started laughing and answered, "You know that's yours and many women's problem. You don't understand. I'm not subjugated to Ben. I'm completed by Ben." I added, "And I'm completed by Jens." We continued together. We realized that together we're better than apart. Together we won the Leadville Trail 100. Neither of us could have done it alone. And together we won this exercise when we couldn't have done it alone. We have become a synergetic unit. Our combined effect is greater than our individual effect. You seem to be completing each other's answers or answering together. What is going on? Was another question. So we explained how we feel each other's feelings. One of the male reporters asked, "Ben, do you have any problems taking orders from Jens?" It was my turn to laugh. "Wow, you really don't understand us. I don't have any problems at all, because she is almost always right." Jens added, "Ben always has the final decision. I live and love to serve Ben." And I said for the first time, "And I live and love to serve Jens." She turned and looked at me and gave me a kiss. The press started hooting at us again. "Why did you just kiss Ben?" Jens said, "Duh, 'cause I love him and that was the first time he told me that." They all started laughing. We kept answering questions for over an hour, and there were a few that we didn't like and refused to answer. We were down to one more question. "Now that you're heroes, will you stay home from Iraq?" We both answered with a startled tone. "What, are you frickin' crazy? We can't wait to get to Iraq and start doing our job." The general stood up and closed the press conference, and the reporters shocked us by standing up and clapping for us. It was lunchtime, and the general had a mobile field kitchen set up, and the cooks were busting but to feed everyone. Jens looked at me. "Want to help?" I replied, "You know I do." So we went over and helped serve the food. This wasn't planned, but was a big hit with everyone and gave most people a chance to meet us as they went through the line. When things slowed up, we each grabbed a plate of chow and sat down to eat. The press was hovering around, but gave us some peace to eat. I asked Jens, "I assume those two suits that are following us are Secret Service?" Jens answered, "Close, my love. They're actually better. They're SEALs from the platoon that we beat. And the snipers on the 3 hills are ours? You noticed them?" "I looked but I couldn't find them," she answered. I leaned over and whispered, "I've seen all 3. I wouldn't have seen them before, but I've been more observant since I need to keep you safe." She nearly knocked me out of my seat with her kiss. After lunch, we wandered around some, meeting and greeting people. I felt better knowing that we had protection keeping an eye on us. We saw the poster that they made of us. Jens was in her white dress sitting on the chair with her hand over her mouth and a look of disbelief in her eyes. I was on one knee in front of her in my evening dress uniform holding up the ring. The title of the poster was The All-American Couple. We stopped for a while and signed posters, which caused a huge line to form at the poster table. They had all our gear on display, all 3 of our rifles, our fake Alice packs and ghillie suits, and a history of snipers, their role in the military, and what it was like to be a Marine sniper. It was pretty one-sided. They left out the really bad parts. The general called us over to the press conference table again. All the press was there, and we both looked at each other and thought, shit, not again. We sat down and a man walked up onto the stage with 10 men following him, each carrying a case. The general said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Chris Barrett, one of the owners of Barrett Firearms. He has a special presentation to make." Mr. Barrett addressed the press. "Thank you, General Donaldson, and a very special thank you to Sergeant Major Blaine and Sergeant Donaldson. I'm here today to personally thank you too for helping to make my company so successful. Since the beginning of your exercise, sales of our rifles have skyrocketed. We can't keep up with the demand. As a token of our thanks to both of you, we would like to present each of you with one of every rifle that we make." The press started clapping. I stood up and shook his hand. Jens stood up and started jumping up and down, saying, "Oh, goody. I love your rifles." She gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. The press loved that. I was excited too. Shit, we had just been given about $40,000 of rifles. The celebration was finally winding down, and we were both exhausted and ready to go home. We did one more bunch of photos, this time with a photographer from our ad agency. It ended up being fun because he took the time to pose us in interesting poses. General and Mrs. Donaldson came up and he asked, "Are you two ready to head home? We have a limo for you right over there," and pointed to a big black limo. We looked at each other and together said, "We would both prefer to just drive a Humvee. Is there one available?" The general's aide ran off to get one for us. We went over to the sniper display and started picking up our gear. One of press that had been following us asked, "Hey, you guys are heroes, and you're still moving your own gear?" Jens said, "Of course, we're Marines first." The press gasped collectively when we walked right past the waiting limo and started loading the gear into a waiting Humvee. At least they were far enough away that they couldn't question us. Just when we finished loading the gear, I looked over to see that the Hawaii State Patrol had cars to escort us to the base, and driving the lead car was Jack, my old spotter. I grabbed Jens's hand and we ran over to him. I gave him a handshake and a hug, and Jens gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. We talked for about 15 minutes, finding out that Masha was doing fine, and sent her best wishes. As we walked back to the Humvee, I looked at Jens and said, "Yes, I think it would be good if you drove." She replied, "Thanks, honey. See, I told you that you could feel my feelings." I opened the driver's door for her and went around to the other side and got in. At last, we were on our way to the base and our home. It was good being alone again with Jens. I looked at her. I had no idea it was going to be that bad. Neither did I. That was a frickin' zoo. I don't ever want to see a reporter again. There's such a holes. Of course that wish never happened. Everywhere we went after that day, we always had the paparazzi to deal with. Our life was no longer our own. It was now owned by the world. We were both happy to make it home. I opened the doors for Jens and she said, "Let me get cleaned up and I'll make us some dinner." I started humping gear into the extra bedroom. Jens came out of the kitchen and said, "We have a surprise. Mom made dinner and left it for us. Let me help with the gear, and then we can both eat." We were both hungry. I could smell the fried chicken again and my mouth was watering. So we hustled the rest of the gear into the third bedroom and then went in the kitchen. Jens started pulling the food out of the oven where it was being kept warm. I went to the fridge, pulled out a couple of Guinness beers, poured them into glasses and sat them on the table, helped Jens into her chair, and sat in my own. I looked over at her, raised my glass and said, Jens joined in on the second line, "May we live in peace without weeping. May our joy outline the lives we touch without ceasing. And may our love fill the world, angel wings tenderly beating." We clicked our glasses. Jens downed her whole beer in several big gulps. I said, "Damn, you were thirsty," and got up us both another one. The beer and the food helped us to relax and unwind, and to discuss the day and all that happened. It was so strange that we couldn't believe it really happened. After our leisurely meal, I cleaned up the kitchen while Jens went in to shower and take off her war paint. I finished the kitchen and went in and finished stowing the gear. I even set up Jens' laptop that had been dropped off, and then I went in my bathroom and cleaned up myself. Jens knocked on the door and asked, "You mind if I come in? I'm getting lonely?" I told her to come on in, and she mostly behaved herself while I finished my shower. I say, mostly because she did throw some cold water over the top of the shower stall on me a couple of times, just to hurry me up. I came out of the shower, and Jens handed me the towel and helped me dry off. I was so tired that I didn't get too excited this time. Then she gave me my underwear and shorts, offering to help me put them on, but I didn't totally trust her not to attack me. She had that mischievous look in her eyes. We walked into our bedroom together, climbed into bed, and just held each other like an old married couple. We had no need to talk because each knew what the other was feeling. The last thing I remember is seeing her lovely eyes flutter closed and her lips part as she slipped into sleep. Kadaba, Pakistan, morning of day 18. Sleeping in a bed was much better than hanging from the ceiling, and would have been almost perfect if the bed didn't have bedbugs and lice in it. It also would have been nice if they hadn't tied me down so tight that I couldn't move. I never thought I'd have to compare, but being bitten by bedbugs and lice is better than the rats trying to eat me. I didn't sleep much better, though. I'm conditioned to vigilance because of the rats, so I still woke up many times during the night. Today, when the guards and Zarika come in and move me back to my cell for the day, I tell her about the bedbugs and the lice. She looks so pissed. She promises to see what can be done. There is a nice side effect of my condition. When she tells them, the guards stay far away from me for a while. Then they come in, tie me back to the ceiling, strip me, and throw buckets of what smells like bleach on me. It hurts like hell when it gets in my eyes and cuts. I want to punch someone. Now one of them cuts off all my hair. I feel some relief. My hair has been feeling shaggy compared to my normal buzz cut. When they shave me, I almost feel human again. They throw some more bleach water over me and leave me literally hung out to dry. Zarika comes in later, after I've dried, and looks at all the bedbug bites, putting ointment on the worst ones. She checks me to make sure she can't find any lice. It's embarrassing to have her examining my private parts, but I'm definitely relieved it's her and not one of the others. When she's decided I'm clean, she gives me new pants and has the guards tie me to the chair. She redresses the rat bites and the bruises and cuts on my face. She says she's already eaten, but she goes and gets some food for me and feeds me. Hussein and Mustaf come in after I'm cleaned up and fed. Hussein apologizes about the bed and assures me they've burnt the mattress and found me a new one to sleep on tonight. He asks if I feel better today, and I tell him it is still a good day to die. He hit Mustaf and called him some names after I said that. Hussein and Zarika leave me with Mustaf, and he has the guards untie my left hand. We play chess for most of the day. Mustaf keeps trying to talk to me, but I ignore him. It really pisses him off, and he shoves the chessmen and chessboard onto the floor, pulls out his syringe, and gives me an injection that puts me in dreamland again. Then he starts asking me questions and I started giving him bullshit, but seems happy that I'm talking again. I wonder what Hussein will do to him when he finds out that Mustaf has dosed me again. As if he knows what I'm thinking, he assures me that if I tell anyone about being sedated, he'll come back at night and kill me. The look in his eyes leaves no doubt that he's serious. He injects me 3 more times with lighter doses. When Zarika walks in with our food, she can tell with a glance that I've been sedated. She turns to leave, to tell Hussein. But Mustaf grabs her and threw her to the floor. Then he gets really close to her and hisses something in her ear that really scares her. The son of a bitch stood up and kicked her twice before he left, laughing. I'm going to kill that scumsucker someday. Zarika is frowning and her eyes shine with tears she's holding back. I hold her in my lap and stroke her hair with my free hand. When she simmers down about 10 minutes later, she tells me that Mustaf threatened to kill her and that he is dangerous. We eat in silence, both still upset. I can't stand that this one decent thing in our captivity is being stolen by that a-hole's actions. I start telling Zarika some stories about America to cheer her up. She is really interested in Jens. I think she has a little crush on me. Shit. I think I'm the only man who's ever treated her with respect, so I can understand it happening. Zarika checks the bed for bugs when the guards come in and take me up to it. The guards tie me just as tight as last night. I guess they're afraid I will escape. I'd be afraid of that, too. If I had abused a U.S. Marine, I'll kill them if I get the chance, and they know it. Worst of all, they are keeping me from Yints. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Sunday, day 16. Yints sure knows how to wake a guy up. She was hugging me tight and had me in a serious lip lock with lots of tongue. I held her and returned her kisses. Things escalated until we finally come up for air. Good morning, my fiancé, Yints said. It's about time that you woke up, sleepyhead. I got tired of waiting for my morning kiss. I've never been woken up like that before, but it was pretty nice. I answered. I held her to my chest and started sniffing in her ear like a puppy dog, tickling her until she was thrashing around and trying to escape. I held on tight and kept it up for several minutes. Finally, Yints squeaked, I'm going to pee my pants if you don't stop. Not wanting to cause an accident, I relented. With a quick kiss, she jumped out of bed and ran into the bathroom. I made the bed and headed into my bathroom to get ready for the day. As I went through the living room to my bedroom, I heard Yints singing in the kitchen, so I made a detour. Yints was busy making breakfast. She was wearing her short shorts and a t-shirt and was barefoot. When she turned sideways to me, I saw that she had stuffed a shirt inside of her t-shirt and looked pregnant. Smiling at me, she said, Tell me, Don't you fantasize about keeping me barefoot and pregnant? She laughed. It was a good thing I didn't have a cup of coffee. I would have choked again. I was laughing so hard. I guess I hadn't thought about it. Yin started pouting. But I do have to say you're the most beautiful pregnant woman I've ever seen, I added. She smiled and tried to hug me, but her fake belly got in the way, so she pulled out the t-shirt and let it fall to the floor. She hugged me tight, even picking me up. I teased. I didn't think pregnant women were supposed to lift heavy objects. Oh, I guess you're right, Yin's answered. Perhaps I should just sit down and let you do everything. She put me back on the floor. I scooped her up, making her squeal with surprise, carried her over to her chair, and sat her down. No problem, my princess. You just sit your cute butt in that chair, and I'll finish breakfast. I took over cooking. I'm your princess and I have a cute butt? Yin's asked. Of course you're my princess, and yes, your butt is very cute. Why do you think I let you run in front of me? It's not because you're faster. Yin's replied. Oh, lawdy me. I do believe I've been abducted by a lecherous old man who only wants me for my body. I replied, talking like a pirate. That's wrong thinking, missy. I's a pirate and I'm only after your booty. She broke into laughter and choked on her coffee. I hurried over and whacked her back until she stopped choking. Hey, you make a pretty good pirate. She winked. Perhaps you'd like to plunder my treasure? Seeing me turn red, she laughed. You're so cute when you blush. I ignored her comment and finished cooking the oatmeal. When I served the toast and cereal, Yin started to pray, so I bowed my head. Curiosity was killing me. I had to ask. My honey and my love. She got a worried look on her face. I don't want to upset you, but I'm wondering why you pray every time before you eat. She smiled and placed her hand on mine. I wondered when you were going to ask me about that. So, you finally got brave enough? I bet you know me well enough to answer this, but I'll tell you anyway. I looked at things and analyzed all the information and came to the conclusion that this world couldn't have happened by an accident or by evolution. It was created by a superior being. Your Cherokee ancestors called him Unaqua or Great Spirit. My ancestors called him God. I'm convinced that he put both of us on the earth at this time to be together. She chuckled. You might say that we're on a mission from God. She imitated the Blues Brothers. Then she was in earnest again and squeezed my hand. I'm also sure that he protected you on some missions before we became a couple. So when I pray, I just thank him for the food he has given us, and I thank him for you. In time you will acknowledge him. I was relieved to get that question out of the way. It was much easier than I'd thought it would be. I wasn't sure about the acknowledge part, but what she said made some sense. Thanks, my love, Yin said, reading my feelings. Of course we will never fight about this, but I do know there will come a time that you'll meet him. Yin smiled at me. See, it's getting easier for you. And yes, that had happened without really trying. I leaned back and thought about the plans for the day. We needed to clean up the house and get our weapons and ourselves ready for the sniper competition on Monday. Plus, the General and Mrs. Donaldson were going to stop by later along with our advertising firm. Shit, I could hardly believe that we need an advertising firm. It was just so strange. If we had time later, a swim in the bay would be nice. Yin's picked right up on that. That sounds like a good plan to me, and it does seem strange that we have an advertising firm. I'm not sure how to feel about that, but I do trust Daddy, and if he feels that we need this, then I believe him. Then I felt her thinking, a moonlight swim in the nude would be nice, and I started blushing. She just gave me a mischievous look, winked at me, and smiled. Damn, she's even teasing me in my mind now. Yin's grinned. You better believe it. I cleaned up the breakfast dishes and Yin's headed off to start cleaning the rest of the house. By the time she took care of her bathroom and our bedroom, I was done with the dishes and did my bathroom and the living room. We met together in the kitchen to finish. I could resist snapping her cute but with a wet dish towel, and that got us into a wrestling match on the kitchen floor, which of course ended up with us hugging and kissing each other. It's a good thing we have a clean floor in here, as much as we roll around on it, Yin said. I can't wait till we're married. I plan attacking you and screwing your brains out in every room of our cabin. I hear that washing machines are especially nice. She batted her violet eyes at me. So tell me, just how much research did you do on sex? I asked. She winked at me. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. Shit, the way you're talking, you might screw me to death. I laughed. At least you die with a smile on your face, she chuckled. Again, I was at a loss for words, so I started nibbling her neck. She tried to wriggle away. Hey, no fair, you're getting me all hot and bothered, and we can't do anything about it, Yin's complained. She was squirming and moaning, but I had her pinned, and I was enjoying how she felt. She stopped wriggling and locked gazes with me. Listen, mister. You'd better stop, or I'm going to assault you. I decided I'd better let up, but I couldn't resist giving her one more good bite and a hickey. Did you just give me a hickey? Yince asked. I've always wondered what it would feel like. I really liked it. Let me up so I can go see. Thankful that she was distracted, I let her up. She ran to the bathroom, and within seconds I heard, hoo-hoo, my first hickey. I can't wait to show Mom. Oh great. She does tell her mother everything. I finished up the little bit of the kitchen that we had left and went in our bedroom. She was still admiring the hickey. Of course I tell Mom everything. She answered my thoughts. And yes, I'll even tell her what a wonderful lover you are after our honeymoon. I just shook my head in resignation and went to the extra bedroom to start working on the weapons. Yince came in a couple minutes later. Sorry, my love, but Mom has been my only real friend. That's why I tell her everything. I was so far advanced in school there were no girls my age that I could talk to. So Mom just took over that role. You don't have to worry. She loves you. You have impressed her by making me wait until we're married. She's the one who told me you'll be a patient and understanding lover, and what a gift you have given us by waiting. Then her brow creased. Please don't worry, and please don't ask me to stop with her. Then I saw the tears start in the corner of her eyes. My love, don't cry. Forgive me for being such an idiot. I ought to understand having a good friendship with your mother. I guess I don't trust them yet the way you do. And I get worried that she'll think I'm some sort of perv, taking advantage of her innocent daughter, I said. She started laughing. Do you realize how bad your logic is? From the very first night, I've thrown myself at you. I've even slept in the nude twice with you, and you've never taken advantage of me. I do have to admit, though, the morning you had your hands on my body, it felt really good. Shit. She did know. Of course I knew. I just decided not to do anything about it. My mom thinks you're a saint with a capital S. And she says when she tells Daddy about all my antics and your reactions, he laughs so hard he almost rolls on the floor. They both love you and think you're the most special man in the world. They can't wait for my phone call every night. They say it's better than anything on television. She's right again. I guess it must be pretty funny to someone watching from the outside. Until now, I haven't had someone close enough I could share things with. Yince's eyes filled with tears. Oh, my love, what you just felt is so sad. But it's so nice that you feel you can share with me. I held her on my lap, and she snuggled against my shoulder until she felt better. Then she kissed me and got up, and we both started working on the weapons. We needed to take off the sniper simulation system for the next day, because the firing range was first up on the sniper contest. Plus, our weapons had just been through 4 days of jungle humidity. They needed a good cleaning. I was running the cleaning patches through the barrels and enjoying the smell of hops number 9, remembering all the fond childhood memories that it invoked, and thought again how if a woman wanted to attract me she would wear it as a perfume. I looked over at Yince, and she winked at me, picked up the bottle of hops and dabbed some behind her ears and on her wrists. Am I irresistible now, my love? She said with a laugh. She almost was. I'll buy you a new bottle of Odu hops for our honeymoon, I joked, and we laughed again. We finished up with the weapons and put them back into the safes, cleaned up the room, and took out the trash so that the room wouldn't smell like gun solvent. There wasn't enough time to go for a swim before her parents and entourage arrived, so we decided to cuddle, but ended up taking a nap, catching up on all the sleep we missed during the exercise. The doorbell woke us up, and we both wandered into the living room stretching and yawning. I checked, and let in the general and the others. He walked in, shook my hand and gave me a big hug, walked over to Yince, and did the same. Mrs. Donaldson came in and did the same, throwing a questioning look at Yince. You smell like gun cleaning supplies. I know, Mom. We were cleaning our weapons and I found out that Ben loves this smell. He finds it almost irresistible. So I dabbed a little on myself hoping, well, you know, and I forgot to take it off, Yince answered. The general grinned. I love the smell of hops. I added, and bacon. We both lapsed into silence. Mrs. Donaldson rolled her eyes. Wake up, you two, and get your mind on what we need to do. The advertising group came into the house, and the introductions were made. We moved into the kitchen and sat at the table, and I started another pot of coffee. Donnelly and Sons, the advertising company for the USMC, was excited to handle us. They had a bunch of ideas. It was all pretty boring to me, so I let the brains of the Ben and Yince unit handle almost everything. I did pay attention when they said we had made close to $1 million off of the poster. They were setting up interviews with all the major news networks. I made it clear that I would never be interviewed by CCCN. But, Sergeant Major Blaine, they started to protest. They're a bunch of frickin' communists. If you schedule an interview with them, I know I will say things to them that you'll regret, I warned. That shut them up real fast. They moved on quickly. The deal was done for Ben and Yince G.I. Joe dolls, so we'd have to go pose for them. They also wanted to do several more photo shoots and roll out some more posters. We were going to be on the late-night talk shows and had a bunch of party invitations to galas with the stars. Shit, they even wanted to do a workout video. I clenched my fists as I tried to control myself, but I was starting to get antsy, shifting in my seat. The general locked eyes with me, and he motioned with his head that we needed to go out on the patio and talk. We excused ourselves. I went to the bar and poured us each a drink, bourbon for him and sparkling water for me, and we headed outside, closing the door behind us. General Donaldson wasted no time. "Son, I know that you don't care for this, and frankly, I don't either," he acknowledged and took a sip of bourbon, "but you need to look at this as the opportunity of a lifetime. Not just for you, but for Yints and also for the Corps. Do you know that for the first time ever, we've had to turn recruits away? Not only that, with the money you two are making, when you retire you'll never have to worry about working. You and Yints can do whatever you want, make as many babies as you want, send them all to college and create a legacy for your family that will affect the USA for many years to come. I can't and won't order you to do this, but I'll tell you as your father-in-law to be that you need to get your head out of your butt and get on board with this." I looked at him, and he looked at me. I knew what he said was true. I held up my glass, clinked it against his. "Thanks, Dad. I needed that." I gave him a hug. We went back in and I got into the mix. Yints looked at me with amazement in her eyes when I told Donnelly and Sons I had reconsidered and would do the interview with CCCN and that I wanted it to be with Elizabeth Morgan and in the training area at night. Then I suggested they arrange for a news team to come to Iraq with us. Yints started squirming a little in her chair. But what really blew them away was when I said I wanted to have the first ever Bravo and Juliet Club Jamboree before we left for Iraq, and that we would attend and pay for any children who couldn't afford to come. Yints excused herself, was gone for about 5 minutes, and came back looking much better. She'd just gotten back when I asked the general if we could travel to the major cities and work at the recruiting stations. She took one look at me, sat on my lap and gave me a huge hug and kiss, and whispered in my ear, "You got me so hot." My face had to be bright red, but our guests tactfully ignored it as we kicked a few other ideas around. I had more I hadn't even told them yet, but we had enough to keep us busy for the time being. We wrapped up the meeting, and I asked if anyone wanted a drink, and got busy making cocktails. They were enjoying their drinks, but they all looked at me funny when I had a glass of sparkling water. I explained, "I have some serious shooting tomorrow, and I don't want to dull my senses." Yints walked to the bar, dumped out her tequila sunrise, and grabbed a glass of sparkling water. We all had a toast for success of the ad campaign, the Corps, and our sniper contest. After the general had his aide escorted Donnelly and Sons off the base, the four of us sat around and talked for a while. Yints was still trying to process my change in attitude. She looked at me for a moment and finally asked, "What the hell happened to you? You were just sitting there all bored. Then you went outside with Daddy and came back in and took control." I laughed and looked at the general. Dad gave me some good advice and a swift kick in the butt. Yints opened her mouth to say something, and then her eyes lit up and she pounced on me. "You just called him, Dad." She hugged me tightly and kissed the hell out of me. Yints's parents, my adopted mom and dad, were holding hands, looking at us and smiling. Both of them gave me the thumbs up. Mom winked at me and said, "I guess that makes me." I interrupted, "It makes you Mom." Yints started crying, excused herself, and went into the bedroom. Mom went after her. Dad chuckled. "Damn, that was sure funny. I've never seen Yints unable to handle a situation until now. You sure threw her for a loop." We stood around and discussed guy stuff until the ladies came out of the bedroom. Yints slid up beside me, wrapped her arms around my arm, and gave me a kiss on the cheek. She whispered in my ear, "I love you so much. You're the best man in the world. Sorry I had to leave." Dad and Mom said it was time for them to go. So we exchanged hugs and kisses and promised to get together the next night. They were both staying on base for the sniper competition. Brigadier General Thompson had been sent back to the Pentagon. They needed a BCO with combat experience. The general was going to be acting BCO until the new one arrived. After they left, I looked at Yints, screw swimming. "Order in a pizza. Let's stay home and cuddle all night." She started jumping up and down. Yes, yes, yes. That sounds great. We can be an old married couple tonight. Don't forget to wear your granny panties then." I laughed. "Only if you'll take them off me," she said with a twinkle in her eyes. Before things got too far out of hand, I went and ordered the pizza. Yints went and changed into her flannel PJs, and I went and changed into a t-shirt and a pair of loose shorts. We sat on the couch and turned on the TV, but we didn't pay attention to it. We were more interested in cuddling and necking. When the pizza showed up, I gave the guy a 20 and told him to keep the change. He looked at me sort of funny and said, "You're him?" Aren't you? I said. Who do you think that I am? Aren't you the guy I saw on the news, the one they're calling the American hero? Yinz walked over, and the pizza guy continued. Oh my gosh, you're both here. Can I get your autographs? We both started blushing and signed our autographs to a piece of paper that he dug out of his pocket. We sat at the table and stated eating the pizza right out of the box, not even bothering with plates. This is good, Yinz said as she reached for another piece. I wish they could make a pizza MRE, I said. They would totally ruin pizza if they did that. No thank you. This is good pizza, but my homemade pizza is even better, Yinz answered. Honey, if you can make homemade pizza, I just might marry you twice, I said with a laugh. Does that mean I get 2 wedding nights? Yinz asked, waggling her eyebrows. After we're married, I think every night with you will be a wedding night. Yinz looked at me with lust in her eyes. Are you sure you can survive a life full of wedding nights? Well, it'd probably make you walk funny and might kill me, but I'd die a happy man. I smiled at her. Walking funny would be fine with me, but you'd better not go dying on me. Otherwise, I might have to kill you, Yinz answered. We polished off the whole pizza and went back into the living room for some more cuddling, necking and talking until I yawned, and Yinz followed suit. Oh, shit, she said, glancing at the clock. We'd better get to bed. I agreed with the unspoken thought. I nudged her legs off of mine and stood, offering her a hand up. We have a big day ahead of us tomorrow. Come along, my sexy spotter. I pulled her to me and hooked an arm around her waist. You say the nicest things, she purred as we wandered into bed. Kadaba, Pakistan, morning of day 19. With the new, cleaner mattress, I slept much better last night, but woke up with a headache and stiff muscles and joints. It helps to be away from the rats, but I still suffered some phantom rat bites on my feet that woke me up kicking a few times. Today is much the same as yesterday. The guards take me back to my cell and tie me up to my chair, leaving my left arm untied. Zarika brings our breakfast. I'm getting pretty good at eating with my left hand. We talk some more about life in America. Right before she leaves, she confides that she is working on a plan for us to escape and to make sure I'm ready when the time comes. Maybe with her help, there's hope of getting out of this hellhole. Once again, I'm left alone again with Mustafa, and the first thing he does is inject me with the narcotic. My headache and stiffness gradually disappear, and I'm horrified to recognize that I'm starting to get hooked on the crap he's giving me. Mustafa notices, too. You're starting to like my little narcotic. Good. This will help us to become very good friends. Now tell me all about the American forces. I feed him a bunch of bullshit. He's a bigger fool than he looks, if he thinks I'll ever tell him anything. Towards evening, Zarika comes in with our dinner. Mustafa grabs her, shoves his hand up under her dress and starts playing with her, staring at me the whole time. We both start yelling and fighting, her to escape from Mustafa and me to get loose from my bonds. Finally, Mustafa turns her loose and throws her to the floor. He sticks his hand in front of my face. It's quite wet. Look, Barack's little 304 is in love with you. She wants you to screw her. Then he leaves laughing. Zarika scrambles to her feet, refusing to look at me, and runs out of the room crying. Shame at my helplessness rises to rage. That scumsucker is dead. He just doesn't know it yet. A while later, the guards come in and eat my food. Then they move me up to my bed. It's not the first time that I've gone to bed hungry, and it won't keep me from thinking about home. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Monday, day 17. I woke up even earlier than normal this morning. I had my mind on the sniper competition. With a little care, I was able to slip out of bed without waking up Yinz, went to the kitchen and started the coffee. It wasn't that I was nervous. I was quite sure with Yinz's help that we would win. I just wanted to prepare myself mentally for the day. I couldn't afford to be distracted or to make a mistake, and I was still bothered by all the fame that had fallen on us just for doing what we normally do. Ever since I'd met Yinz, my life had been some sort of fairy tale. With the contest coming up today, I needed to push all of that out of my thoughts. The coffee pot started making the I'm all done noise, so I poured a cup and went out onto the patio to watch the sun rise. It looked like it was going to be a beautiful day. Clear skies without much wind would make a great day for shooting. I was looking forward to meeting the other snipers this morning. Some were old friends, and others I had never heard of. I was sure that Yinz had studied all of them and could tell me all their weaknesses. That was our advantage. Yinz slipped up behind me with a cup of coffee, ducked under my arm, and wrapped her arm around my waist. Hey, the bed got cold and woke me up. Thanks for making the coffee. I gave her a good morning squeeze. Just 1 cup today, my love. We don't need to be jittery for shooting this afternoon, I reminded her. She swung around in front of me and gave me a kiss with a little bit of tongue. Maybe I'll drink my coffee this way. I gave her my no-nonsense look, and she smiled. Yes, my love, I know we have to be serious today. I just need a little lovin' from you first thing in the morning. You can bet that we'll both be very professional today. I held her close and gave her some lovin' because I needed it too. After about 15 minutes, we were both satisfied and walked back into the kitchen holding hands. We split breakfast duty that morning. I took care of the toast, and Yinz made the oatmeal. Yinz had her back to me, and I couldn't resist reaching over and swatting her hard on the butt. She jumped and squealed. Hey, what's that for? It was a target of opportunity, I answered. Well, that hurt. I think I'm bruised. You need to kiss it and make it better, Yinz said, pulling down her pajama bottoms and shaking her butt at me. I turned several shades of red and she said, You're so, and laughed when I finished. Cute when I blush. I know. She went back to making the oatmeal, and I slipped over, knelt down, and kissed her on her body. She spun around and looked at me. There, it's all better now, I said. Anything else you'd like for me to kiss while I'm down here? Yinz was so shocked she couldn't say anything, and then she started blushing. You're even cuter when you blush. I laughed and stood up. I pulled her close to me and gave her a hug and a kiss. I guess I win this time. Just remember, the war isn't over. Yinz answered. We heard the distinct blub of oatmeal bubbling. Hey, I better take care of the oatmeal or it'll burn. While she did that, I finished the toast. We sat at the table and Yinz bowed her head to pray, but I still didn't feel comfortable doing that. Halfway through breakfast, Yinz smiled at me and announced, You're going to win the shooting part of the sniper competition today. I corrected her. We're going to win first and second in the shooting part of the sniper competition today. I think I forgot to tell you that I signed us up as 2 teams. The Bravo Juliet team where I'm the sniper and you're the spotter, and the Juliet Bravo team where you're the sniper and I'm the spotter. Yinz dropped her spoon in the bowl and oatmeal splattered all over the table. She jumped up and came to my side of the table and slid into my lap. You're the best man in the world. You treat me so well. I really wanted to compete, but I was afraid it would keep you from winning. Don't worry. I've got it all figured out. We'll each take turns, I answered. Yinz gave me a big kiss. Thank you, my bin. I love you so much. I promise you that I will do my best and make you proud of me. I'm always proud of you, I answered. Now, let's get up and get going. We need to meet the rest of the snipers. Yinz jumped up and held out her hands to help me up. I grabbed the dishes, rinsed them, and put them in the dishwasher. Yinz headed off to her bathroom, and I went to mine 30 minutes later. We both entered the living room wearing our service uniforms. It's not one of my favorite Marine uniforms, but Yinz could make a burlap sack look nice. The doorbell announced the arrival of Dad and Mom. I answered the door, and they gave us big hugs. Mom beamed. Good morning. How's the all-American couple doing this morning? Yinz and I blushed. We weren't used to the title yet. Mom looked at Dad. Oh, they're so cute when they blush. Naturally, we blushed even more. I didn't know what to say, but Yinz bailed me out. So, Mother, did you come over here to see us or harass us? Both. I couldn't wait to see my little girl and son-in-law-to-be, she answered. I excused myself, went to the kitchen, and brought them each a cup of coffee. Thanks, son, Dad said. Are you both ready for today? Yes, sir. We're going to kick butts and take names, I answered. I promise you that we will come in first and second today in the shooting competition. That's the attitude that I like to hear, Dad replied as he slapped me on the back. Are you two ready for all the press today? They're waiting at the reception hall and will follow you to the shooting range. Shit, I thought. I was hoping that they would leave us alone. I realized that wasn't going to happen, and I was starting to get pissed off. Then I remembered what Dad told me last night, and I calmed down. Sir, it would be nice if they could leave us alone, but I realize for now that isn't going to happen. So we'll make the best of the situation and we'll give them the best damned show they've ever seen. Yinz hugged me tight and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Wow. I don't know what's come over you, but whatever it is, I like it. Dad told me how expensive it is to keep you in pantyhose and feminine products. So I figured I needed to make as much money from our newfound fame as possible, I joked, and planted a kiss on her nose. Yinz started getting all flustered until she heard Dad start laughing. Then she figured it was a joke and started laughing too. Wow, you really had me worried for a minute. I thought you were serious. Little did she realize that I was serious about making as much money from all this as possible. I may have accepted that the press was going to invade our lives and steal our privacy as much as they could, but I'd also determined that they were going to pay through the nose for it. We all discussed the upcoming day. Dad had some suggestions on how we handle ourselves, but I had a few secret surprises that were going to really blow their socks off. When it was time for us to go to the reception, Dad took his car, and we took our Humvee, both of us with escorts. The reception was being held at the base gymnasium. I looked at Jens as we drove up. Well, this doesn't look as bad as yesterday. There doesn't seem to be as many frickin' news crews. Don't worry, my love. I'll protect you from those news bitches, Jens answered, sliding her dress up to show me that she had a leg holster on with a Kimber in it. The vision of Jens pulling a pistol on Ms. Morgan made me laugh. I'm sure if you pull that on them, they will all piss themselves and faint, I chortled, causing us both to laugh, remembering the incident with Ms. Morgan. Our laughter was cut short by the sight of the crowd inside. I had been wrong. Most of the frickin' news crews were inside. Damn. When we walked in behind the general and his wife, a Marine band started playing the Marine hymn. Jens and I took our assigned seats, and the general and his wife went up onto the stage. She took her seat, and he waited for the band to finish and then went to the podium and gave his welcome speech. In the speech, he gave an overview of the whole competition. This was more for the sake of the press. All the participants already knew what was going on. Even during his speech, we had some news cameras watching us. It made me feel like I was a fish in a fishbowl. After the speech, General Donaldson introduced each sniper team and had them come up to the front. Jens whispered details about each team to me as they were introduced. She had really done her homework. They introduced a second Spetsnaz team from Russia, and Jens leaned over whispering to me, I don't like this. I didn't know anything about them sending a second team. We were introduced last, to the loudest cheers. All of the snipers had an hour to greet each other after the introductions. Unfortunately, the press demanded interviews during the introductions. We promised to save them 15 minutes at the end to talk to them, and they sort of left us alone. Aside from a female sniper from the Mossad, Jens was the only woman among the snipers. I made sure I held Jens's hand while we were greeting the others. I wanted everyone to know that she was taken. Jens amazed me by greeting most teams in their natural languages. I found myself wondering if there was anything my beautiful fiancée didn't know. I did surprise her when we greeted the Russian teams. She knew I spoke some Russian, but I was actually able to carry on some short dialogues with them. When did you learn Russian? She asked. I taught myself, I replied. I wanted to learn a language. It was going to be either Klingon or Russian, and Russian seemed more practical. Yagaver по-русски chut-chut, I panamo по-русски ini okan harasho. I speak Russian a little bit and understand Russian well. Jen replied, Ya okan lublu taba. I love you very much. Ya torza. I replied, I love you too. When we met the new Russian team, I didn't speak much Russian to them. After we walked away, Jens asked me, so what was that about? You hardly spoke any Russian with them. I don't care for them. Something doesn't feel right about them. I thought it would be better to keep my mouth shut and listen, I answered. I'll see what I can find out about them, Jens said, her eyes dark with worry. We gave the press several great photo ops without making any major blunders. Then we jumped back into the Humvee with our escort following us and headed back to the house to change and load up for the rifle shooting competition. I rushed through changing and took out a couple of boxes that had been delivered from my old bedroom and put them in the back of the Humvee. Inside were my surprises for later that day. Then I grabbed both of the M107 Barretts and the 98 Bravo Barretts, my two favorite M1911s, and one more rifle that was a surprise. I finished loading right as Jens came out of our bedroom. Thanks for loading the Humvee. You must be in a hurry, Jens said, giving me a kiss. Well, I'm a little excited today, and I wanted to get to the range with plenty of time to set up, I replied. We walked out to the Humvee. I opened the door for Jens, and we were off to the range. Jens turned around and looked in the back of the Humvee. Hey, what's all this crap doing in here? And what's in those two boxes? It's a surprise for you later. Don't open them, I answered. I had planned this surprise for almost a week. I wanted to distract Jens from the shooting competition so that she wouldn't be too tense, and boy, did it work. She was bugging the hell out of me to know what the surprise was. We were both surprised when we pulled into the shooting range and saw a tractor trailer with a picture of us walking out of the training area carrying the Barretts on our shoulders and the lettering Barrett rifles. The best only use the best under the picture. I pulled the Humvee over next to it and saw Chris Barrett. He waved at us and came over to the Humvee and opened the door for Jens. I jumped out and went over to them. Good. I'm glad you two are early, Chris said. We have the factory armorers and a full machine shop here to support you in this competition. We will take care of everything for you. All you two need to do is shoot. Where are your rifles? I looked at Jens. We were both dumbfounded. I don't understand why you would do this for us, I said. Chris smiled and pointed to the picture. I guess you didn't know. We signed an agreement with your advertising firm. You two are now the first members of the Barrett factory team and are paid Barrett consultants. Besides, since your use of the Barretts in the exercise, we can't build them fast enough to keep up with the demand. We've had to go to 3 shifts at the factory and are looking at expanding. Everyone wants a Barrett. Yince and I grabbed the Barretts out of the back of the Humvee and took them into the back of the semi-trailer. I'm sure our jaws must have hit the floor when we saw what was inside. As complete an armorer's machine shop as I have ever seen was laid out in the trailer, and I have seen many. We were met by Frank and John, our personal armorers. They took the Barretts over to their work tables and started to work on them while Chris showed us around the rest of the trailer. It had lathes, milling machines, hydraulic presses, ultrasonic parts washers, ovens, and a full reloading area. Shit, it even had a special sighting machine to sight in the Barretts. I looked at Chris and said, "Wow, I'm impressed. This must have cost a fortune to build, and even more to bring to Hawaii." He replied, "The best only use the best and only deserve the best. When you two are through winning the shooting competition today, I figure that Barrett will sell about $50 million worth of rifles to the competing teams. Once they get a look at the 98 Bravo and what it can do, especially with the special loads we have for you two, they will be begging us to buy one." "Special loads?" I asked. "You bet." Chris grinned. "It's sort of a secret, but let's just say that neither of you will need your M107S today. We have developed a bullet and a load that will let you shoot the 98 Bravo accurately to at least 2,000 meters. We also have a new rifle for you to try. It's secret, and we want you to try it at the end of the competition." I asked Chris, "Do you mind if I store a couple of boxes in here? I don't want to leave them in the back of the Humvee. Also, I was wondering if I could use your ultrasonic parts washer." "Sure, make yourselves at home. We even have an area where you can relax, and a fridge full of food and drinks," Chris replied. I brought in the boxes and stowed them in the corner. Yince was still bugging me about getting to take a look inside, but I stood firm. Then I brought in one huge gun case, which got the attention of Frank and John. I opened it up and pulled out my 1874 Shiloh Sharps black powder rifle in 45 to 1201. Frank whistled. "Wow, that's one beautiful rifle. Would you mind if I held it?" I opened the breech to show it was unloaded and handed it to him. He let out a low whistle. "I always wanted to see one of these. This is a Quigley 2 Special, isn't it?" "It's a bit more," I said. "The Quigley was a 45 to 110. This is a 45 to 120. I was wondering if we could throw the barrel in the ultrasonic cleaner. I'd like to take this out and get in some shots before the competition." Frank jumped right on it and had the barrel clean as a whistle and the sharps reassembled in just a few minutes. "Damn, you're good," I told Frank. Then Yince and I, Chris, Frank, and John headed out to the range to have some fun. Yince grabbed her spotting scope when we stopped by the Humvee to grab my cartridge belt and an ammo box for the sharps. We stopped by the RSO to get permission to fire the sharps. He looked at it and chuckled. "You're not really going to shoot that today?" I looked at him and replied, "I'll bet you $1,000 that I can shoot a bullet-sized group at 500 meters. He looked at me. "No way in hell I'm going to take that bet. I've already lost enough money to you. The only time you bet is when you're going to win." I just smiled at him. Yince was excited. "I can't wait to see you shoot the sharps today. Ever since I saw it in your gun safe, I've wanted to see it fired, and maybe even shoot it." "Of course you'll shoot it, my love." "We're all going to shoot it," I answered, and then leaned over and whispered to her, "We're going to use this to intimidate our competition and to keep them from saying we're winning because we have the Barretts. Wait till we shoot a bullet-sized group at 500 meters with this. They're going to be crapping in their pants." We walked down the firing line to our station, and I whistled the theme song from Quigley Down Under. It was annoying, and had the effect I wanted. Namely, the other sniper teams were turning around to see what the hell was going on and were laughing and pointing at us as we walked by. Yince said, "This is brilliant. They're thinking that we are fools for even bringing this out to the range." Meanwhile, the press had seen us headed towards our station. They were held behind a fence and couldn't get to us, but that didn't stop them from clamoring for an interview. I looked at Yince. "Shall we go over and talk to our press?" Yince arched her brow. "Our press? You bet. We own these bitches right now," I answered, and we went over to the fence. They had a bunch of questions about the sharps, so I gave them the history of the IT and how kill shots had been made at a surveyed 1,500 yards. I told them that this was just going to be for fun and to warm up for the real shooting later, and to make sure they had their cameras running because this old rifle was going to put out a bunch of smoke when we fired it. At our station, Yince set up the spotting scope and I stood up beside the table. I said, "Please run a target out to 500 meters, call the RSO and tell him this is my 500-meter qualify round, and range me, my love." "Aren't you going to sit down and use the bench?" she asked. "Nope, this is the way they shot this in the old days, and this is the way I'm going to shoot it now," I replied. She called the RSO and told him I was qualifying at 500 m and said, "Range, 500 meters, elevation, 0, wind, 2 at 178. I raised the vernier tang sight and turned the screws until the windage and elevation were correct. Slipping a round out of my cartridge belt, I opened the action and dropped the round into the chamber. I closed the action and looked over at Yince and smiled. This is going to be so much fun. Looking around, I saw that we had an audience. Most of the other sniper teams were behind me watching. I smiled to myself, just what I wanted. I raised the sharps to my shoulder, cocked the hammer, set the first trigger, and tickled the second trigger. The sharps belched out a cloud of black powder smoke. I opened the action, threw in another cartridge, and did it again, repeating 3 more times for 5 shots in all. I lowered the rifle. Please bring in the target, my love. She ran in the target and brought it to the table. I pulled a cartridge out of the belt and handed it to her. Yince measured it and started jumping up and down and yelled, 5 shots dead center in the target, all in the same hole, and from a standing position and with iron sights. That's my man. I raised my voice to be audible to everyone. Well, let's run this target over to the RSO. This is my qualifying round for 500 meters. It's a perfect score. I'd thrown down the gauntlet, and the other sniper teams looked worried. The RSO looked at it and certified it. Damn, I'm glad I didn't bet you. I grinned. Yince is shooting next. She's never even fired this rifle. How about we bet $2,000 that she can put all of them in the same hole at 500 meters? He declined the offer again. Damn, I was hoping to make some more money today. On our way back to the table, I was whispering to Yince, you'll find this is the easiest damned rifle to shoot at 500 meters that you've ever fired. Now, don't argue with me. You're going to fire this from the bench. This rifle is so damn long and heavy, unless you've practiced, you can't hit shit standing up. The hardest part is seeing the target without a scope at 500 meters. I always set the range so that my aim point is the bottom of the bullseye and adjust the range so it hits the center of it. Make sure that your sight picture is exactly the same on each shot, and the rifle will do the rest. I love and live to serve you, my dear. I'm just excited to shoot your big gun, Yince said, almost making me blush. Yince sat at the table and I showed her how to operate the rifle. She took a few practice dry fires to get used to the trigger setup. We had the same crowd as before. I walked back to them and said, I've got a $1,000 bet that Yince will put all 5 rounds in the same hole. By the way, she has never fired this rifle. 5 teams took the bet. I just smiled at them. This was going to be easy money. I walked back to the table and sat down beside Yince. She looked nervous. I reassured her. Don't worry, my love. You'll be shocked how easy this is. Remember, I still have a surprise for you later. That was the right thing to say. It took Yince's mind off the shooting. I ran a target out to 500 m and had Yince practice sighting on it until she was comfortable. Then I called the RSO and told him this was Yince's qualifying round at 500 m and I ranged her. Range, 500 meters. Elevation, 0. Wind, 1 at 187. I helped her set up the vernier tang sight and watched as she fired her 5 shots. She looked worried as she told me to run in the target. I did. She handed me a cartridge and I compared it. I looked over at her and smiled. She came over and started jumping around. 5 shots in 1 hole? Woo-hoo. A perfect score. I love you, my dear, and I love this rifle. She was jumping all over the place. The rest of the snipers looked pretty glum. We left the rifle with Chris, Frank, and John so they could each take 5 shots. Then Frank was going to clean it all up, which made me happy. I love shooting the sharps, but cleaning it up was hell, and it needed to be done each time immediately after you were finished firing it, or the black powder would corrode the rifle. Yince stopped by the reporters to show them her target as we were taking it to the RSO. She was as excited as I used to get on Christmas morning. The press had a bunch of questions, and were ecstatic that we'd only fired 10 rounds and were already in the lead. I told them that it wasn't over yet, and other teams would also have some perfect scores. When we're done winning this competition today, I would like to invite all of you over to the pistol range for a little exhibition shooting. That got the press and Yince all fired up. They wanted to know more about it, but I told them they would have to wait. Yince dropped of her target, and the RSO just shook his head. How much money did you make today, Bonsai? Yince gushed. My fiancé made $5,000 off my shooting. When we got back to our table, the Barrett guys were just finishing up. They'd all hit the bullseye, but no perfect scores. Chris said, that's the most fun I've had shooting in many years. I've got to get one of these for myself. Frank agreed. It hardly kicks at all. John added, it's accurate, but I'll be damned if I know how you two could see well enough without a scope to shoot a perfect score. Yince and I both said together, it is secret. If we told you, we'd have to kill you. We all laughed as we walked back to the Barrett semi, and Frank took care of cleaning up the sharps while John was finishing up the 98 Bravos. Chris said, I think when we're done setting up the Bravos, You two should take them out and qualify at 1,000 meters. Just to let you know, the rounds that you're firing today are extreme wildcat rounds. The Bravo will easily handle the pressure, but instead of the barrels lasting 4,000 to 5,000 rounds, they'll barely last 1,000. After the competition today, we'll rebarrel your rifles. We've also developed a new muzzle brake that will reduce the felt recoil to less than a .300 Winchester Magnum, but make sure when you're spotting you stay out of the way of the blast cone. It hurts like hell if you don't. We both thanked him and grabbed a bottle of water, then sat down in the chairs to watch the guys work. John finished one Bravo, took it over to the side of the trailer, and Boris sighted it. Then he put it in a box and actually fired a round. It shook the whole trailer. He pulled it out of the box, tweaked the scope some, put it back in the box, and fired it again. I was getting pretty interested in this, so I went over to talk to him. "Hey, John, don't tell me you're able to sight in my rifle this way." He grinned as he glanced up from his work. "Yeah, we sure can. Isn't this cool? I need to fire about 3 more shots, and your rifle will be sighted and perfect for 1,000 meters. I was flabbergasted and asked a few more questions about how it worked. He showed me, and only had to fire 2 more shots until it was perfect. Jens came over and watched when he finished her rifle. John handed both our rifles to us and said, "Give him hell. These are spot on at 1,000 meters with the ammo that you have. I expect that you'll have 2 more perfect targets for us." We all left the trailer and walked to the RSO stand to check in our Bravos. I whistled the Quigley tune again and chuckled when the other snipers looked up. This time, they were pointing at our guns, but they weren't laughing. The RSO looked at the rifles and said, "Damn, those are fine rifles. I wouldn't mind having one of those." Chris Barrett said, "That can be arranged for about $7,000. The rifle is about $4,500, and the scope is another $2,500. The RSO whistled. "That's a bit rich for my blood." I looked at the RSO and said, "I'll bet you this rifle that we both shoot less than 1-inch groups at 1,000 meters. You lose, you pay me $7,000. "No way in hell I'm going to take that bet," the RSO replied. We laughed as we walked to our table. Chris held Jens's rifle while we both sat down. I double-checked to make sure Jens would be out of the blast zone. She was, and I said, "Okay, my only love, time to do the voodoo I do so well. Please run a target out to 1,000 meters, call the RSO, and range me." You say the nicest things, my dear," Jens said before she ran a target out to 1,000 m and then made the call to the RSO. Range, 1,000 meters. Elevation, 0, wind, 3 at 185. I tweaked the scope just a bit, acquired the target, and went through my normal routine 5 times. I could tell I was doing well, because Jens was looking through the spotting scope and was getting excited. "Please bring in my target, my love," I asked. It was just larger than one hole at 1,000 m. The other snipers had been watching and walked away in disgust. They now had something else to shoot for. We took the target to the RSO and he certified it. "You know, I'll never bet against either one of you again." He shook his head. It was Jens's turn, so we walked back to the table. The press was trying to get our attention, but we needed to stay focused. While Jens continued onto the table, I went and told them we would be over after this round to talk to them. We swapped rifles with Chris, and Jens took the sniper position while I took the spotter position. "My sweetie, please run a target out to 1,000 meters. Call the RSO and tell him this is my qualifying round, and range me," she asked. I did as ordered. Jens made the scope changes and got ready to fire. She nailed the bullseye all 5 times. I brought in the target. Damn, just a bit larger than my group. We were all treated to another jump-in Jens dance. We stopped by the press so Jens could show off and answer some more questions. Chris and the guys headed back to the trailer with our rifles. The RSO certified her score and said, "Damn, you two are on a roll today. I heard several of the teams complaining that it was your rifles, until I reminded them you qualified at 500 meters with that sharps. That shut them up real quick." As we were walking back to the table, Jens squeezed my hand and said, "That's why you brought the sharps, so no one could say it was our Barretts." I nodded, smiling. Yep, if I had a scope on it, I would bring it out again for 1,500 meters, but there's no way I could see the target well enough with iron sights. When we got back to the trailer, Chris was busy talking to team managers from the other teams. It looked like he was writing a lot of contracts. Frank and John were working on the Bravos. I sat down to finish my water, and Jens went over to the table, pulled out a calculator and a paper pad, and started working on something. I was thinking, man, this is the life. I don't have to do anything but fire my rifle. Everything else is taken care of for me. Frank finished up on my rifle, and Jens called him over and showed him the stuff she was working on. They discussed some things for about 10 minutes, coming to some sort of agreement, and Yinz came over to me smiling while Frank went over and started making something in the machine shop. "Well, my love," she said, "you're going to get your wish. I figured out a way to mount a scope to your sharps without damaging it. And I also figured out a load that should just get you 1,500 meters. I don't think you should try it standing, and I don't think it should be your qualifying round. But it would be fun to try it off the bench just to shut the other teams up." I jumped up, grabbed her, and whirled around with her. "Damn, you're amazing. I don't know if I've told you that today." I planted a serious kiss on her lips. 20 minutes later, Frank had the scope mounted on the sharps. It looked funny, a modern scope on a replica of an ancient rifle. He then took 10 sharps cartridges, pulled the bullets, and started working on the load that Yinz calculated. I was amazed that they had black powder in the trailer, but Frank told me that they threw some in for their black powder rifles in hopes that they could have some time to play. Frank loaded up the cartridges, took them and the sharps to the test box, and set up the scope. He smiled after 3 test shots. That was too easy. It would be fun to see if we could get 2,500 meters out of this someday. Then he handed the rifle to me. "You're not going to get one hole this time, but you should do pretty well." All 4 of us walked out of the trailer. Chris came over. "Shit, that looks funny, seeing a scope on your sharps. You're not going to try to qualify with that?" "Nope, we're just going to have some fun," Yinz answered. We were all whistling the theme to Quigley as we walked to the RSO to report in. He took one look at the sharps and laughed. "That's the funniest looking thing I've ever seen. Don't tell me you're going to qualify with that." "Nope," I answered. "We're just going to have some fun." Of course, the other snipers didn't know that, and they all came over to watch. I looked at Yinz and she whispered, "I think I need to change my clothes. I almost lose my composure every time you pull out your big tool." I started laughing so hard that tears filled my eyes. "Damn, woman. If you keep that up, I'll be too distracted to focus. Please keep me in check." "Range, 1,500 meters. Elevation, 0. Wind, 4 at 180, Yinz answered. I tweaked the scope for the wind. It was great that it was behind me. Slipped a cartridge into the breech and closed it, and went through the 5 shots. I knew that it wasn't all in one hole, but I also knew that it was pretty good shooting. Yinz brought the target in and did her dance. "Damn, my big strong Marine. You just shot an 1.5-inch group at 1,500 meters with a black powder rifle." The rest of the snipers looked at the target with hope, and then Yinz continued. "Too bad that was just for fun." They all walked away grumbling. Frank and the others headed back to the Barrett trailer while Yinz and I went over to visit with the RSO and see how we were doing. Talking to the crew at the RSO area was interesting. There were a lot of good shooters at the range today. We still had the lead, but both the Canadians and the Israelis were close. With the first Russian team right behind them, then came most of the rest. No one had tried for 1,500 m, yet other than me with the sharps, and I hadn't counted it. I looked at Yinz. "Well, my love, I think we need to ramp things up a bit. What do you say we try some shoots at 2,000 meters? "Let's do it, my dear. I'm getting tired of standing around," she replied. We sauntered back to the Barrett trailer, stopping off by the press to tell them what was happening. They had a bunch of questions, mostly wondering when it was going to be over so we could go to the pistol range. When we walked into the trailer, we could see that Frank and John had been busy. They had the 98 Bravos all ready for us. Not only that, they had changed out the scopes. They now had a huge attachment on the top of the scope with a big frickin' knob on it. "What the hell did you do to our rifles?" Yinz asked. Chris replied, "We had time. So I had the guys install the new BORS 3-sight system on your 98 Bravos. BORS is an integrated electronic ballistic computer that mounts directly on your rifle scope and couples to the elevation knob. Just turn the elevation knob until the LCD displays the target's range. The BORS's 3 internal sensors will have automatically calculated your ballistic solution. It compensates for aiming up or down, temperature, and barometric pressure changes. It even tells you if the rifle is canted. Place the crosshair on the target and fire with first-round confidence. The only thing you'll have to worry about now is windage. It looked funny, but if it really worked, it would take most of the calculations out of the first shots." I took the rifle from him. "Well, let's go out and see if this computerized scope works." We all walked down to the RSO stand and told them we were going to qualify at 2,000 m. As we passed, the other teams were really watching us, trying to figure out what sort of shit was mounted on our scopes. I wasn't sure that I trusted this newfangled shit, so I wanted to take a shot or two to see how it worked. We set up at our table, and Frank went through the operations of the BORS system with us. It almost seemed too frickin' simple. I asked Yinz, "My love, please run a target out to 2,000 meters and range me." She did, and said, "Range, 2,000 meters. Elevation, 0. Wind, 2 at 170. I cranked the knob on the BORS until it read 2,000 m, tweaked the windage, and fired 5 shots. Yince got all excited and started bringing in the target. I could see where you were hitting. This is going to be an incredible group. It was just less than 2 inches at 2000 m. Damn, I wish I would have taken that group for qualifying. Now I need to wait for the rifle to cool again before shooting, I said. This cut the shot prep time in half. It's frickin' awesome. Yince's rifle was still ready, so we switched places. My dearest, please run a target out to 2000 meters, call the RSO, and range me, Yince asked. I did the first 2 and then told her, range, 2000 meters, elevation, 0, wind, 2 at 176. She set the range on BORS, adjusted the windage, and took her 5 shots. Wow, I love that new muzzle brake. This rifle hardly kicks at all, Yince said as I was bringing in the target. I smiled when I saw it. It looked identical to mine. I showed Yince, and she began the Yince dance. Woohoo! Less than 2 inches at 2000 meters. She said it loud enough that the closer groups could hear. They wandered over and took a look at her target and were impressed. When Yince and I went to get her target certified, Chris was busy showing some of the other teams the BORS setup. I could almost hear the cash register ringing as we left. We stopped by and showed the press. They were going gaga over the fact that Yince now led the competition and had her pose for a bunch of pictures. The RSO certified the target and said, "Wow, I didn't think you'd be ahead of Bonsai. Way to go." Yince was all smiles. We went back and chased the other teams away from our table for my turn. Yince took her place and I took mine. I looked over at Yince. "Maybe I'll let you win this one." She shot me a pissed-off look. "If you let me win, you'll sleep on the couch tonight." Truth be told, I was concerned. That was a great group that she'd shot, and I wasn't sure I could best it. It would take all my concentration and a bit of luck to beat her. "My lovely Yince, please run out a target to 2000 meters, call the RSO, and range me," I asked. Yince reached over and touched my shoulder. "I know you can do this, my love. Don't worry." She did the first 2 and then said, range, 2000 meters, elevation, 0, wind, 0. Looked like that luck I needed had come in the form of the wind. The BORS was already set to 2000 m. I set the windage back to nada and started firing. 5 shots later, Yince brought the target in. I looked at it. This was going to be close. Yince looked at me and said, "I can't tell. Is my group better than yours?" I shook my head. "I can't tell either. The group you shot was incredible. You may have beaten me." We marched over to the RSO to have my target certified and to see if Yince had beaten me. The official looked up from measuring the group. "Damn, Bonsai. She almost beat you. You're ahead by 1/8 of an inch." I replied, "I just got lucky with the wind. Otherwise, she would have beaten me." Yince punched my arm. "Hey, cut it out. You're ahead fair and square, and I'm proud of you." She had her $1,000,000 smile going and her violet eyes were sparkling. I grabbed her, gave her a big hug and whispered in her ear, "Thanks, my love, for your undying support." She squeezed me so hard it made my back pop. "I love and live to serve you. I'll always support you, no matter what," she whispered back. It was a humbling experience. Once again, I felt unworthy of her perfect support and love, but that was cut short by a sharp slap across my face that snapped me out of my funk. "Hey, Jarhead, did you forget that I can feel your feelings? Get that crap out of your mind right now," Yince demanded, fire in her eyes. "I'm not going to have you moping around the rest of the frickin' day." I rubbed my face, sure the slap had left a red market. "You're right, my love. You're almost always right. Thanks for snapping me out of it." She laid a gentle kiss on my cheek. "You're welcome. I wish that bitch was here right now. I'd kick her but so hard she'd have teeth coming out of her, but for what she did to your self-esteem. You're with me now, mister, and I'm never going to let you go, and I'm never going to belittle you. You're the best and most awesome man in the world, and someday I'm going to make you believe that." I wanted to chuckle at the image Yince had conjured of bitch in such a ridiculous way, but I knew better than to bring bitch up around Yince. It would probably get me another slap. So instead, I gave her a big kiss, which helped soothe her a bit. As we were walking back to our table, the press was going crazy. They'd seen Yince slap me and wanted to know what was going on. We walked over with our arms around each other, and when we got close enough, Ms. Morgan shouted out, "What'd do to make Yince slap you?" I laughed. I'm hard-headed and was being stupid. That's what she does when she needs to get my attention. Ms. Morgan jumped on that like a turkey on corn. "Yince, does he ever hit you if he thinks you're acting stupid? That damn news bitch, looking for a sensational story. Here's one for her. Yince is perfect. She never does anything stupid." Yince added, "But if I did, I hope that he would spank me. I've always wanted to be spanked by Ben." Then she shook her butt towards me, I lightly swatted it, and all the press started laughing. We kissed and continued towards our table. Chris was there doing his sales pitch and showing other teams and managers the Barrett gear. It was sort of a pain in the butt having him do this, but with all that Barrett had done for us, I wasn't going to complain. We walked up and Chris said, "Hey you guys, awesome shooting. Do you know that your groups were very close to the theoretical limits of what the 98 Bravo can produce? It was very impressive. Frank and John are waiting for you in the trailer with a surprise that will blow your socks off." Well, that got us interested, especially Jens, who seemed unable to resist the S-word. We were both sure this was the secret that he had mentioned earlier, so we beat feet to the trailer to finally see it. We walked in the door and saw Frank and John holding a new rifle. It sort of looked like our M107S, but the barrel was bigger and shorter. It had one nasty-looking muzzle brake on it, and a big scope on the top with BORS. Jens walked over to John and said, "What the hell did you do to our M107S?" She was almost as passionate about her rifles as she was about me. John looked a bit worried and answered, "We made them better." Chris walked in behind us and said, "That's right. We made them better. Tell me, snipers, what are the biggest problems with the M107? Jens replied, still pissed about her rifle. "What is this? Some sort of frickin' test?" I interrupted her before she got too far. "That's easy. It's the .50 BMG round. It's not very accurate, even with solid bronze bullets." Jens continued, "And now that we can use the .338 lap you out to 2,000 meters, it doesn't even give us a range advantage." I finished, "It's even marginally good for taking out hardened targets. What we need is a more accurate and more powerful M107. "Exactly." The word burst out of Chris's mouth. "And that is what we are giving you." Frank and John are holding the newest, top-secret, long-range sniper rifle that Barrett has developed. May I present to you and Jens the Barrett XM109. The XM109 is a semi-automatic 25mm rifle that has a 17.6-inch long barrel and an overall length of 46 inches. It weighs in at 46 pounds and has a 5-round magazine. Effective distance armor-piercing lethality for the rifle is listed at 2,000 meters. The 25mm round is derivative design from the AH-64 Apache helicopter's M789 high-explosive dual-purpose 30mm ammunition and will penetrate at least 50 millimeters of armor plating, making it capable of destroying light armored vehicles, scud launchers, and other equipment. According to the ammunition manufacturer, the 25mm round is 2.5 times more effective at destroying targets than a .50 caliber armor-piercing round. "We have given you a true shoulder-mounted cannon." We both cried. "Holy shit." Jens worried. "That must have a hell of a recoil." "Shit, my shoulder hurts every time I fire the M107. I can't imagine what this will feel like." "Well, there's one way to find out," I said. "Let's go and try these out." We marched out of the trailer under the eyes of the other teams and headed over to the RSO to check in. The RSO stared at the rifles. "Shit, you've already qualified at a further distance than anyone else, and you're both in the lead. What are you going to do now?" "We thought we would test out some new rifles. Will you let us run the targets out to 3,000 meters? I asked. He looked at us, looked at the rifles, looked at us again, and asked, "Are those things safe?" Chris answered, "As long as you stay behind the barrel and out of the blast cone, they are." The RSO replied, "Go ahead and try one shot, but call me before you fire any more rounds." We went over to our table and started setting up, and Chris pulled out a new spotting scope for Jens. It was much more powerful. It had to be so she could spot at 3,000 meters. I started setting up the XM. I thought I heard the other snipers gasp when I pulled out the 25mm rounds and started loading a mag. I slammed the mag home and looked at Jens. "This is going to be damn interesting. Please run a target out to 3,000 meters, call the RSO, and range me." It seemed like it took forever to get the target out to 3,000 m. Jens called the RSO and said, "I love you, my dear. Damn, this is a nice spotting scope. Range, 3,000 meters. Elevation, 0. Wind, 4 at 20. I cranked the BORS knob to 3,000 m, adjusted the windage from the new chart Chris gave me, pulled the XM really tight against my shoulder. Well, here we go. I took a breath, let half of it out, and squeezed the trigger. The XM roared, the table shook, and dust flew everywhere. I was pushed about a foot back. "Holy crap," we both said. "That was something." Jens asked, "How's your shoulder?" "It's not as bad as I thought it would be, but I wouldn't want to do this all day long," I answered. "I guess you have a really big gun now," Jens said, making me blush. "Did I even hit the target?" I finally asked. "Gee, I don't know. I was more concerned about you surviving." "Let me take a look," Jen replied. She looked through the scope and started hooting. "Woo-hoo. My big marine hit the bullseye at 3,000 meters. Think you can do that 4 more times? I'm not sure the RSO will let us do that 4 more times, I answered. She called the RSO and he okayed 4 more shots. I looked at her and said, I'll take 2 more, and you take the last 2. Are you sure that I can handle it? I'm sure that your shoulder can take the 2 shots if you keep the rifle really tight against it. Besides, if this bruises your shoulder, I'll just have to give you another massage, I said. Jens's eyes twinkled. Shit. I'll fire that damned cannon all day long if you'll give me another massage. I understood the hint and filed it away for later. The whole range had come over to watch our craziness, and we decided to give them a real show. I said as loud as I could, make sure the RSO knows this is a 3,000-meter combined qualifying round. Jens whispered, is there even such a thing? I answered, I don't think so, but we can sure bullshit them and shake them up. We set up and I fired 2 more rounds. They weren't as bad as the first because I knew what to expect. Then Jens and I switched places. I ranged her, and she pulled the XM up tight against her shoulder. Are you sure this won't break my shoulder? It's worse than the M107, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. The first shot is a little scary, but after that it's manageable, I assured her. She went through the procedure and fired her first shot. Wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. In fact, it was sort of fun. Then she set up and fired her second shot. Not bad at all. I think I could get used to this. I was beginning to think that she was psycho after all. Jens shot me a look. Hey, I'm not psycho. I just love shooting. Let's bring in the target. We ran in the target. As it was coming in, we could see the big frickin' holes in the target. In fact, most of the middle of the target was gone. They measured it, and the middle 5 inches of the target was totally gone. Jens asked, so is this a 5-inch group? The RSO walked up and said, damn, that's what it looks like to me. But it looks like we're going to have to come up with a different target when people start shooting these. The round is so big it damages the target. When we developed this, we found the targets worked better if they were made out of a thin metal, Chris said. They hadn't brought any of those with them, which didn't matter because I was through with the rifle for the day. The other teams were trying, but none of them were close to our scores. I looked over at Jens and asked, so, are you ready for your surprise? She jumped up and down. I've only been waiting all day for it. Let's run back to the trailer so that I can open those boxes now. She grabbed my hand and started dragging me towards the Barrett semi. I pulled her to a stop. Wait a minute, my fiancé. First we need to go invite our press to come along, and then we need to pack up the rifles and the 2 boxes and head over to the pistol range. You can't open the boxes until we reach the pistol range. She looked at me and gave me the best pout I've ever seen. Damn. You just love torturing me, don't you? It seems like you make me wait for everything. Yes, my love, I do. And doesn't the anticipation make it that much better? I led her toward the waiting press. Chris called after us, don't worry about the rifles. We still need to rebarrel them. When we're done with that, I'll make sure they get back to you. I leaned over and whispered to Jens, you'd better fix your attitude, or the press will be asking you what's wrong. After all, you did just come in second in round 1 of the sniper competition. That did cheer her up, and by the time we reached the press, she was her normal self. The press started asking questions. I held up my hand. They stopped talking, and I announced, ladies and gentlemen, we're done with round 1 of the sniper competition. We've both tried our best, and I'm barely in first and Jens is easily in second. If someone does better than us now, they deserve to win. I'd like to invite all of you over to the pistol range for the surprise that I promised earlier. Ms. Morgan shouted, Jens, what's the surprise? Jens replied, pouting, hell if I know. Ben hasn't told me, and he's been torturing me with it all day. They all started laughing, and one asked, come on, Ben, give us a clue. I thought for about a minute and said, there's a famous quote that starts, God made men. Jens continued, Sam Colt made all men equal. The press continued, what's that supposed to mean? Meet us at the pistol range, and we'll show you. I answered, leading Jens towards the Barrett trailer. We walked in the trailer and thanked Chris, Frank, and John for all their support and help. Chris said, I want to thank you too. You've helped to make Barrett a very successful company today. I looked around for the boxes. Chris continued, oh, we loaded up the Humvee already. You're all ready to go. We thanked him again and headed out to the Humvee. I opened the door for Jens and then went around and got in. Jens looked over at me. You're one sneaky devil dog. I just figured out what you did. You used the surprise to keep me from getting nervous about the competition. She leaned across the seat and gave me a smoldering kiss. Thanks, my love. It really worked. But now that the competition is done, can I please open the boxes? Yes, you may open them when we get to the pistol range. I replied. Jens stomped her foot and punched me in the arm. Sometimes you drive me crazy, she replied. Good, because you drive me crazy all the time, I said. The press was already at the pistol range when we arrived. I opened the door for Yince, went and got the 2 boxes, and walked over to the press. Have you figured out the quote yet? I asked. Some of them shouted out ideas, none of them right. Okay, in a few minutes, we will come out of the building over there, and then we'll tell you, I said. I set the boxes on the floor of the RSO building and looked at Yince. Are you really sure you want to open these? Once you open them, you'll never be the same. Get out of my way, she said as she tore into the first box. The first thing she found was a single action shooting society badge and a certificate with the permanent shooter's alias of Jumpin' Yince. She threw me with a questioning look. I nodded my head. Keep going. Next, she pulled out a new Stetson hat, new pair of Levis and a gingham blouse, and a new pair of Tony Lama cowboy boots. She still looked funny at me. There's more, I continued. She removed the cardboard, and underneath was a brand new quick-draw setup and 2 new nickel-plated Colt single-action revolvers with nice pearl grips. She was so shocked that she forgot to do the Yince dance. She set the guns down, came over and hugged me so hard I thought she was going to break my back. Thanks for the gifts, my love. You really know the way to get into my heart. Ever since I fired your dad's revolvers, I've wanted a set of my own. Now I have a set of my own, plus a whole outfit to go with it. She planted a toe-curling kiss on my lips. I opened up the second box, started pulling out my outfit, and said, You're an official member of the SAS's Jumpin' Yince. This is your first ensemble. I thought we'd pretend to be cowgirl and Indian and go and give the press a quick-draw exhibition. Yince bit her lower lip. Do you think I'm good enough? Hell, yes, I encouraged her. You're going to do great. It's not like the press knows anything about this anyway. Let's get changed. No one was in the building, so we both just shucked our clothes right in the middle of the floor and started changing. I couldn't help looking at Yince's body as we were changing. Hey, Jarhead, watch what you're doing, Yince said with a laugh. I'd rather watch what you're doing, I quipped. Yince looked spectacular in her new outfit. The jeans and shirt were tight in all the right places. She twirled and said, Like what you see, my big, strong brave? I let out a war whoop, picked her up, and swung her around. You're the best-looking cowgirl I've ever seen, and planted a huge kiss on her cheek. Yince put on her quick draw rig as I finished getting into my buckskins and moccasins. She looked over and said, Hey, that's a nice outfit. You look like a real Indian. Where'd you get it? Then she gasped, realizing what she had said. I just laughed. Well, I'm half Indian, so I hope I would look a little bit like one. But this will make me look even more like one. I pulled out a dark black wig with 2 long braids and slipped it over my head. I made this outfit myself. It's deer skin from a deer that I shot. I even skinned it and tanned the hide myself. I was going to say it's soft as a baby's bottom, but I think I'd rather say it's soft as your bottom. Talk like that will get you laid, Yince said with a smile. That left me tongue-tied, and Yince had a dangerous look in her eyes. I was saved by the press yelling, wondering where we were and what was taking so long. You know, Yince said, sauntering up to me, one of these days, your luck is going to run out, and you'll have to answer me when I say things like that. Well, when that happens, I guess I'll just have to lay you, I replied. This time it was Yince's turn to be tongue-tied. I swatted her but instead, Come on, cowgirl. We have a show to perform. We walked out of the RSO building into the yammering of the press. When they finally saw us, they were so shocked, they fell silent. Yince whispered to me, This has to be a miracle. We've finally found a way to shut them the hell up. The press had recovered by the time we walked over close to them and were asking a million questions at the same time. I held up my hand and said in a mock American Indian accent, How? They erupted with laughter, letting me take control of the situation. I explained about the SAS and CAS. Then, I took time to show them Dad's revolvers and explain the quote I had told them earlier. They asked about my outfit, and I told them the same thing I told Yince. They really laughed on the part about the leather being as soft as Yince's bottom. Ms. Morgan interrupted and said, So, you've touched Yince's bottom. Does this mean that something else has happened? Yince answered that by saying in a little girl voice, Well, I was being a very bad little girl and Ben had to spank my bottom. Ms. Morgan looked very frustrated, and the press started hooting and asked some more questions. Thankfully, there weren't any more about Yince's bottom. We told them we were going to put on a quick-draw shooting exhibition and walked over to the firing line. As we were walking, I noticed Yince was putting an extra sway in each step. I leaned towards her and whispered, What the hell are you doing? She replied, I noticed that several of the male reporters got excited when you started talking about my bottom, so I thought I would make good use of my assets and let them dream about what they'll never get. She then looked over her shoulders and blew the press a kiss. Damn, You're such a tease. I chuckled. No, I'm your tease. All this is yours whenever and wherever you want it. She reminded me, her violet eyes twinkling. I was relieved to be facing away from the press, as it was my turn to conceal my excitement. Well, it looks like someone like that. Jens laughed, looking at me. Thank goodness I was able to get control of myself by the time we reached the firing line. We loaded the Colts in the proper way, and I told Jens, you're going first. Remember what I've taught you. Stay smooth and stay loose. You're gonna do great. She turned away from the firing line to face the press, waved and blew them another kiss, and said, I'm ready, my love. I threw a can downrange and said, go. Jens spun and slipped the left Colt out of the holster. Damn, she was fast. Saw the can, and fanned the revolver 5 times, hitting it each time. She slipped the left Colt back into the holster at the same time she drew the right Colt, fanned it 5 times, again hitting the can each time, reholstered the right Colt, and started the Jens dance in double time. The press was cheering. She turned to them, waved, curtsied, and blew them another kiss. Damn, woman, have you been practicing? I said in amazement. Nope, I just knew that I had to do good today to impress you, she answered. Shit, I'm more than impressed, I am amazed. I gave her a big hug and a kiss. I guess I'd better come up with something else. I unloaded the right Colt, grabbed a different box of ammo, and then started reloading it. Those sure look strange. What sort of ammo is that? Jens asked. These are 45 long Colts loaded with shot, sort of like a miniature shotgun shell. They use them a lot in snake country to kill rattlesnakes, I answered. I reloaded the right pistol with the shot shells and told Jens, when I say go, I want you to throw the can up in the air about 15 feet in front of me. Throw it as high as you can. I made sure the Colts were loose in the holsters, shook my hands a couple of times, and said the closest thing to a prayer I had ever said. Go. Jens threw the can perfectly. I drew the right Colt and fanned it 5 times, hitting the can each time and bouncing it up in the air. As it hit the ground, I holstered the right Colt, drew the left, and chased the can downrange, hitting it all 5 times. I did a fancy twirl and reholstered the Colt. Jens let out a whoop and jumped onto me, wrapping her arms around my neck and her legs around my waist. Son of a bitch, I've never seen anything like that. One of them even shouted, hey, get a room, you too. We both started laughing. I peeled Jens off me, bowed, and waved to the press. We went over to them and talked a couple of them, Miss Morgan included, into coming out and firing our Colts. It was the first time that many of them had held a gun, so we were kept busy teaching them gun safety and making sure they didn't shoot anyone. Jens got really pissed when I was helping Miss Morgan, and she leaned over, wrapped her arms around my arm, and pressed her against my bicep. Hey woman, Jens said in a voice cold as the first frost. You'd better not be making a pass at my fiancé. Ms. Morgan jumped back and apologized, saying that she didn't realize what she was doing. Things were winding down, and I had one more thing I wanted to do. Will everyone please follow me over to the defensive pistol range? There's one last exhibition I would like to show you. We wandered on over to the range, and I reloaded both my Colts. Jens said, Ben, you know there are 14 tactical targets on this range, and you only have 10 shots. Don't worry, my dear. I've got it covered, I replied. Jens went to the range control to activate the targets. I needed to move down the range and take out all the targets within 2 seconds of them appearing. Otherwise, I was dead. I made sure the Colts were loose in the holsters, looked over at Jens and winked. Time to do the voodoo I do so well. I nodded, and she hit the activate button. I drew both Colts and worked my way down the range, shooting with either hand, depending on which side the target was on. The right Colt was empty first. I holstered it while taking out a target with the left Colt, reached down into the top of the moccasin boot with my right hand, and pulled out a Cabela's new model .31 caliber black powder revolver. I nailed the next 3 targets with it, and on the final target, I was close enough to use my tomahawk. I whipped it out of my belt and threw it at the target, hitting it in the head. Then I fired the last 2 shots from the black powder revolver into its heart. Jens came running down the range and almost tackled me when she ran into me. You never ceased to amaze me. I didn't even know you had a boot gun, she cried, and smothered me with kisses. We walked back to the press with our arms around each other. They were clapping and cheering. We spent the next 30 minutes answering questions. The press wanted to see the little revolver, so I pulled out of my boot. Since it was empty, I even let them handle it. One damned fool started waving it around, and I yelled at him that he'd better start treating it like a weapon, not a toy. I took it back and put it in my moccasin. We told the press we were done for the day, and we were heading home to clean our weapons and to get ready for the next day's event, pistol qualifying. We picked up our clothes from the RSO building, jumped into the Humvee, and instead of heading home, we decided to stop and get something to eat in town. I hadn't had a waffle sandwich in a long time, so I talked Jens into Denny's. I would have preferred Village Inn, but it was further away from the base. When I pulled into the parking lot, I realized we still had our SAS outfits on and I said, "Shit, we should have changed. We look like frickin' freaks." "Don't worry, my dear, it won't matter," Jens replied. I hoped she was right. We did get some funny looks when we walked in, but after we sat down, no one noticed us anymore, and I had my waffle sandwich and Jens had a Superbird. Jens kept thanking me for the Colts and telling me how much she liked them. I kept telling her how beautiful she looked as a cowgirl. Jens went to the bathroom, came back and sat down saying, "I know what you did today, you sneaky devil dog. You used our demonstration at the pistol range to psyche out the competition. You know it's all over the news by now. I love it when you get devious. It makes me so hot. Shit, I must have blushed worse than ever. I love it when you blush," Jens said, making it even worse. She looked around and her smile dropped. "Son of a bitch. We lost our escort somewhere." "I'm not carrying right now, are you?" I replied. "All I have is my Cabela's boot gun, but I didn't reload it." "Let's get the hell out of here as fast as we can," Jens answered. We jumped up and paid our bill and headed out the door as 3 Harleys drove up. I looked at the riders and said to Jens, "This is going to be trouble. Stay behind me and let me handle this." "The hell I will. If you're going to fight, you're not going to fight these scumsuckers alone," Jens said. As we tried to get to the Humvee, the 3 bikers blocked our way. I tried to move around them, but they moved back in front of us. Biker 1 sneered. "Shit, what do we have here?" Biker 2 said, "They look like rejects from the village people." Biker 3 said to Jens, "I'd say it was a cowgirl and a half-breed." "Hey, cowgirl, how about riding this?" He unzipped his pants. Jens took a step towards him and kicked him as hard as she could in the balls with her cowboy boots. He fell to the ground screaming, threw up, and passed out. I intercepted the punch that Biker 2 aimed at Jens's head and broke his arm, finishing him off with a palm blow to his nose. Biker 3 pulled a knife, and a chain was dancing around with him like he knew what he was doing. I could tell he didn't. Shit, he didn't even know which of us to go after. I kept my eye on him as I reached out to touch Jens's arm to get her attention. "Jens, this is an order. Go back inside the restaurant and make sure someone has called 911. We need the police and an ambulance for this guy when I break both of his arms. And don't give me any crap." I cut off the inevitable protest. Jens wasn't happy, but she did as she was told. I was in full capoeira mode and was dancing for my life. "Oh, look at the half-breed dancing around because he's afraid of me," the biker jeered. He lunged at me. I danced sideways and he missed. I caught his wrist, slammed my elbow down on his forearm as hard as I could and heard the bones break. He let out a yell and dropped the knife, but swung at me with the chain. I felt it brush through my hair as I ducked. I jumped back and assumed a defensive posture. Jens came running out of Denny's, and I ordered her to stop. This guy was wounded and dangerous. He was swinging the chain around like it was a lasso, hoping to keep me away from him. He surprised me when he let go of the chain and sent it flying towards my head, but I got my right arm up just in time. The chain hit my arm and wrapped around it. Son of a bitch, that hurt like hell. He charged at the same time. I jumped out of the way, and he missed me again. It was obvious he was hopped up on something. As he went by, I caught him full in the face with a roundabout kick and clotheslined him. He hit the ground like a sack of cement, and he wasn't breathing. "Shit, I think I killed him," I yelled and dropped to the ground beside him. Not only wasn't he breathing, but there wasn't a palpable pulse. I started chest compressions and yelled to Jens, "Get the rescue mask out of the Humvee." She ran over to the vehicle and came over beside me. I looked at her. "Even with the mask, I don't want you doing rescue breaths on this nasty prick. On the count of 5, we're going to switch places." We switched, and as I put the rescue mask over his face, I could tell that I had broken his neck. By now there was a huge crowd watching us. Someone said, "Hey, it's the 2 I saw on TV tonight. I think they call them the all-American couple." Hell, this was all we needed. Now the press was going to be here. Jens kept up the compressions. She was pissed and was going at it so hard I think she broke the scumsucker's ribs. I kept up the rescue breaths. Finally, 3 ambulances and 4 police cars showed up. The police and 2 of the paramedics went over and started checking out the other 2 bikers, and 1 paramedic ran over to us. "What's going on here?" Ralph asked. Jens answered, "This scumsucker's attacked us with a knife and a chain, and my fiancé took him down." I added in between breaths, "It feels like I broke his neck." I made sure that I didn't move his head. Ralph took over. He listened with his stethoscope and said, "You guys did a great job. He has a pulse and is breathing on his own." He felt around just a little behind the biker's head. "Yeah, I do think his neck is broken. Ralph hollered to his partner, Jim, we have a probable cervical fracture here. Bring the neck brace and the backboard. Jens and I stepped back and let the paramedics do their job. The press finally showed up, and I was thankful the police were keeping them back. A police captain came over to talk to us. He looked at me and said, after we're done, make sure you get that arm taken care of. I looked down at my right forearm and noticed that the chain was still wrapped around it, and then I noticed the blood and realized that it hurt quite a bit. Jens was upset that I was hurt, so when the captain wanted to separate us to get our stories, he met with some adamant resistance. No way in hell I'm leaving my fiancé's side while he's injured. If you don't like it, you can go screw yourself, she declared. She reached into her purse, pulled out her mobile phone, and hit the speed dial for Dad. She filled him in on the situation and handed the phone to the captain. The captain nodded his head several times and handed the phone back to Jens. She talked to Dad some more and finally hung up the phone. The captain apologized. Sorry, I didn't know who you two were. You both look like some sort of freaks in those outfits. General Donaldson told me you two are his daughter and soon-to-be son-in-law. He and several Humvees of MPs will be here soon to help handle this situation. There were a lot of eyewitnesses, and it looks like you both tried to avoid the fight. There was some question of excessive use of force on the first two attackers until we searched them and found they not only had knives, but were also carrying guns. So I think we're just going to forget about the excessive force. Why don't you head over to an ambulance and get your arm looked at? Jens dragged me over to an ambulance by my left arm. She grabbed a paramedic and got in his face. My fiancé's injured, and I want you to look at him right now. That filthy scumsucker you're working on will be fine. All I did was bust his balls. If you don't take care of my fiancé right now, I'm going to do the same thing to you. The paramedic named George turned a little white and said, yes, ma'am, right away. He started slowly unwrapping the chain from my arm. Damn, that hurt. When I winced a couple of times, Jens gave him her I'm gonna kill you if you hurt my fiancé look, and George turned even whiter. I looked at Jens and said, Marine, I order you to stand down and let this man do his work. Jens was shocked, looked at me and opened her mouth to say something, changed her mind and said, I love and live to serve you. She held my left arm, pulled my head against her side, and ran her fingers across the top of my head. Hey, have I ever told you that your head feels like a hedgehog? Jens said, trying to distract me and doing a good job. Perhaps that will be my nickname for you. Yazik, I said, that's hedgehog in Russian. Jens cooed, you're my little Yazik, and continued to rub my head. George had gotten the chain off and wanted to cut my shirt to look at my arm. I shook my head. No way in hell you're going to cut this buckskin shirt. Jens, please help me off with this. It took a couple of minutes and some pain, but we saved my shirt. George looked at things and said, I can't tell without an x-ray, but I think you have green stick fractures of both your ulna and radius .5. You also have some minor abrasions. I'm going clean the abrasions and splint our arm. Make sure you get it x-rayed either tonight or tomorrow. If you don't take care of this, and if you bang it real hard, you could cause the fracture to come in it. He splinted my arm and offered me a pain pill. I held up my hand. I don't need any damned pain pills, then added, thanks. Anyway, Jens was still holding me and soothing me, and even though there was some pain, her attention felt wonderful. When the general and the MPs finally rolled up, Dad jumped right of the Humvee and took charge of the situation, deploying the MPs to control the crowd better. Then he ran over to us. I jumped up and tried to salute, and Dad said, damn, I can't leave you two alone without you finding some trouble. We could tell he was kidding and trying to make us feel better. He looked at my splinted arm. At ease, you two. What's the damage, son? Did you break your arm? Jens took over and described the whole fight, including how I ordered her into Denny's while I fought the last scumbag. Dad looked at me and said, you kept your promise to keep my daughter safe. I replied, of course, I always keep my promises. I would have died tonight to keep Jens safe. Dad shook my left hand and hugged me. Thank you. I'm so proud of you. Together the three of us walked over to the press. They had already heard about most of the fight from the police captain and eyewitness interviews, but the vultures wanted to talk to us. Jens and Dad handled most of the questions while I just sort of stood between them until one of the reports asked, Ben, does this mean you're out of the sniper competition? I answered, what? This little scratch keep me from winning the sniper competition? No way in hell. Tomorrow is the pistol competition, and I still have my left arm. Our press was finally appeased and started to tear down their equipment. Dad and Jens moved me over to a waiting Humvee, and Dad told the driver to take me to the base hospital for x-rays. The x-rays did show a severe green stick fracture. The doctor said it should heal just fine, but to be careful about banging it. Then he put a cast on my arm. They didn't have camo-colored fiberglass, so I had to settle for green. He also ordered no pistol shooting with the right hand. The waiting Humvee took us to our house, and Yince practically carried me into the bedroom. "Take it easy, my love, and I'll get you dressed for bed." Helping me off with my buckskin pants, she insisted on helping me change my underwear and accidentally brushed against my little Marine. "Oh, excuse me, my love. I really didn't mean to do that." She laughed and gave me a fine show, getting out of her cowgirl outfit and into her flannel PJs. She crawled into bed with me, pulled me tight, and kissed me on the lips. "It's a good thing you're hurt, or I'd kick your butt. Don't you ever order me to stand by when you're in a fight. We're a team and we fight as a team." I tried to argue with her, but she kissed me on the lips, pulled back, and said, "I love and live to serve you, but I'm correct on this one. You need to listen to what I just said and think about it." Dear listeners, the next part will be out soon. Meanwhile, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.